All right, folks, if you're watching, welcome to our table read of Disney Pixar's The Incredibles. My name is Curtis. I'm going to be the host, and I'll also be playing the main role of Frozone, Lucius Best. We got Hunter as Mr. Incredible. We got Jessica as Elastigirl. We have Taylor as Violet. We got Logan as Dash. We got Erik as Syndrome. We got Molly as Mirage and Kari. We have Jeremy, who will join us later, as Edna Mode. And we have Zach as Gilbert, Huph, and Rick. And our scene description is Travis. So, Travis, whenever you're ready, you can start us off.
Alrighty. The Incredibles. The script for your consideration, original screenplay, Brad Bird. The Incredibles. Seated in front of a colored blacking is a magnificent masked man in a superhero suit. Early 30s, ruggedly handsome and powerfully built. He fiddles with a clip-on microphone. We're watching a faded documentary shot in 16 millimeter. A title fades, identifying the man as Mr. Incredible.
Is this on?
Muttering
I can break through walls, but I can't get one of these things going. Zoom, you know.
He finally gets his clip secured and settles in.
So, Mr. Incredible, you have a secret identity.
Incredible stops, tinkering with the mic, and looks towards the camera. He flashes his patented megawatt smile.
Every superhero has a secret identity. I don't know a single one who doesn't. I mean, who wants the pressure of being super all the time?
Title card, Walt Disney Pictures presents resumed documentary, another striking masked superhero, a woman this time. A title identifies her as Elastigirl.
Of course I have a secret identity. Who'd want to go shopping as Elastigirl? You know what I mean?
Title card, a Pixar Animation Studios film, resumed documentary, yet another superhero, sleek, black, dressed in an ice blue suit. Super title, Frozone.
Super ladies, they always want to tell you your secret identity, being on stranger relationship or something like that. I say, girl, I don't want to know about your mild-mannered alter ego or anything like that. You tell me you're a super mega ultra lightning babe, that's all right with me. I'm good.
No matter how many times you save the world, it always manages to get back in jeopardy again. Sometimes I just want to stay saved for a little bit. I feel like the maid, you know, I just cleaned up this mess. Can we keep it clean for 10 minutes, please? Sometimes I think I just like the simple life, you know? Relax a little, raise a family.
Settle down. Are you kidding? I'm at the top of my game. I'm right up there with the big dogs. I mean, come on. Leave saving the world to the men? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Title, The Incredibles, Mussenberg streets, moving late afternoon, sirens wail, lights flash. We're in the middle of a classic car chase, a police car in a hot pursuit of another car driven by an armed bank robbers. The robber riding shotgun primes his submachine gun and unloads to the cop car, which swerves into oncoming traffic to avoid the hail of bullets. Inside another car, not far away, Bob Bear, a dashing, golden-haired man in his late 20s, listens to his radio. If he looks familiar, it's because he is the same man we saw earlier. Mr. Incredible sans mask and supersuit. Suddenly, the music is interrupted by an announcer. We interrupt for another important bulletin. A deadly high-speed pursuit between police and armed gunmen is underway, traveling northbound on San Paulo Boulevard. Bob presses a button. The radio flips, converting to a screen filled with a moving aerial map of the city streets. He types in isolate pursuit. 2 red dots appear, moving quickly over the map. He makes a hard right turn, looks at the screen, a tiny eye icon. Mr. Incredible's logo closes in on the 2 red dots. He checks his watch.
I've got time.
And presses another button, auto drive, and types in merge pursuit. Bob takes his hands off the wheel, and a rapid series of automated actions begin. The seat back drops flat. The passenger seat folds against the window as the driver's seat slides to the center. Bob raises his arms as metal bands lock around his waist. then separate, sliding apart towards his head and his toes, removing his clothes to reveal his slick, brightly colored Mr. Incredible supersuit underneath. He presses under another button. The car's exterior converts into the coolest retro futuristic vehicle ever seen. The Incredible. Mr. Incredible looks up. Through the windshield, we see an old lady waving us down.
Mr. Incredible! Oh, Mr. Incredible!
Residential street. Mr. Incredible pulls up. His window whooshes up, open.
What is it, ma'am?
My cat Squeaker! He won't come down.
Incredible glances at his screen. The pursuer is headed his way. He thinks, making some quick calculations. Then,
Certainly, ma'am, but I suggest you stand clear. There could be trouble.
No, he's quite tame.
resume pursuit. Same moment, the cop car pulls back in behind the robber's car. The cops are firing now and closing in. Incredible and the cat tree, nervously checking the pursuit in his video screen. Incredible rips the tree out of the ground. He tips it, leaning it across the lady just as the car chase squeals into the view at the end of the block. Incredible sees this and hastily shakes the tree, trying to dislodge the cat. Intercut. The car chase. The car swerves into a view now, bordering the bark that Incredible is in. Incredible sees them and shakes the cat harder. Chase cars close in. Incredible car chase. The cat. Chase. The cat. One final shake. Squeaker drops into the old lady's hands. Incredible raises the tree up and slams it down on their hood of the crook's car, squashing it like a bug. Later, Incredible taps down on the loose dirt at the base of the freshly replanted tree and smiles at his admirers.
Thank you, Mr. Incredible. You've done it again.
Yeah, you're the best.
I'm just here to help.
Attention, we have a tour bus robbery in the vicinity of Paradise and Solano. Incredible frowns and looks at his watch. He makes a calculation, muttering to himself.
Still got time. Officers, ma'am, Weaker.
He jumps into the Incredible and is startled to find a pungy kid wearing a mask and a homemade superhero costume sitting in the passenger seat.
Who are you supposed to be?
Well, I'm Incrediboy!
Mr. Incredible stares warily at the awkwardly costumed kid. He's starting to look familiar.
No, you're that kid from the fan club. Brophy, but buddy?
My name is Incrediboy.
Look, I've been nice. I've stood for photos, signed every scrap of paper you push at me, but this is a bit...
Well, you don't have to worry about training me. I know all your moves, all your crime fighting style, your favorite catchphrases, everything. I'm your #1 fan.
The passenger door whooshes open and Incrediboy is ejected from the car. Incredible fires the afterburners and peels off, leaving Buddy standing alone. City rooftops. Minutes later, a trail of stolen goods scattered across a rooftop leads us to a thief. He mutters to himself as he roots through a stolen pursuit, disregarding some items, stuffing others into his pocket. A shadow looms on the wall behind him.
You know...
The snatcher looks up. Incredible grins.
You can tell a lot about a woman by the contents of her purse, but maybe that's not what you had in mind.
Incredible closes in on him. The snatcher drops the purse, pulls a gun, and an arm suddenly snatches into frame and delivers a right across the snatcher's jaw, knocking him out cold. Incredible looks up and sees a dazzling masked woman in an equally dazzling suit. She smiles.
Elastigirl.
Mr. Incredible.
Elastigirl moves to the snatcher, begins to pick him up.
It's all right. I've got him.
Sure, you've got him. I just took him out for you.
Sure, you took him out. His attention was on me.
A fact I exploited in order to do my job.
My job, you mean?
A simple thank you will suffice.
Thanks, but I don't need any help.
Elastigirl assesses him, slowly moves closer.
Whatever happened to the ladies first?
Ever happen to equal treatment?
Hey, look, the lady got me first.
Elastigirl cold cocks the crook with one stretched punch.
We could share, you know.
I work alone.
Elastigirl smiles, moves very close to Incredible.
Well, I think you need to be more.
In one fluid motion, she loops around his body, suddenly behind him, and before he can turn, back in front again.
Flexible.
You doing anything later?
I have a previous engagement.
She makes a little stutter step to the edge of the roof and jump flips, loops and stretches across the rooftops like a liquid cat disappearing into the setting sun. Mr. Incredible lets out a low whistle that is a woman. Moments later, Incredible handcuffs the pursuit snatcher to a pipe.
Now you just stay right there. They usually pick up the garbage in an hour.
Hey, Incredible!
Incredible turns. A helicopter sweeps past, machine guns blazing back towards its pursuer. Frozone swoops down, hot on its tail, surfing a sheet of ice that materializes in his path.
Frozone!
Frozone leaps, grabbing onto the chopper's skids.
Shouldn't you be getting ready?
Incredible frowns, glancing at his watch. He yells at the retreating copter.
Hey, I've still got time.
Off screen, a woman screams.
He's gonna jump!
Incredible runs to the edge of the building and looks down. A large crowd is gathered at the streets below. Incredible follows their upwards gaze to the roof of a skyscraper where a man stands poised to jump. Then does. Incredible quickly gauges distances and then dives off to the edge, making a spectacular leap high above the street and tackles the jumper in midair. They crash through an enormous window on the far side, inside bank building, lobby area, and tumble to the floor in a shower of glass. Safe.
Ah, my collarbone. I think you broke it.
With counseling, I think you'll come to forgive me. Wait a minute.
Mr. Incredible slides the jumper over to a desk and props him up against it. His acute senses turn his attention to the hallway toward the elevators. As he follows his ears, we become aware of a sound. A tiny series of regular beeps. Incredible locates a spot on the wall and presses one ear against it. The beeps accelerate. Bob starts to push away and... boom! The hallway is filled with smoke and debris. A silhouette emerges from the newly blown hole in the wall. A tall, raggedy man in a mime costume, carrying two duffled bags. He surveys the scene with a wicked smile. A vault door is embedded into the wall directly opposite the hole. It moves aside, revealing Incredible behind it. Dazed but unharmed, he sees the mime and growls.
Bon voyage.
Oh, Monsieur Incroyable.
And Incrediboy!
Both Mr. Incredible and Voyage turn and stare in disbelief at the kid, who awkwardly flies over to them.
Incredible?
Aren't you curious about how I get around so fast? See, I have these rocket boots. They've made from...
Go home, buddy. Now.
Petit douf.
Can we talk? You always tell people, be true to yourself, but you never say which part of yourself to be true to. Well, I finally figured out who I am, and I'm your ward, Incrediboy!
Now you've officially carried it too far, buddy.
There's an ugly flash in Buddy's eyes.
It's because I don't have powers, isn't it? Not every hero has powers, you know. You can be super without them. I invented these. I can fly. Can you fly?
Fly home, buddy. I work alone.
Oui, et tu es anyway ridicule.
Just give me one chance. I'll show you. I'll go get the police.
As Buddy jogs to the shattered window, Incredible sees that Voyage has clipped a small bomb onto Buddy's cap.
Buddy, don't!
It'll only take a second, really.
No, stop! There's a bomb!
He grabs Buddy's cape just as Incrediboy takes off, taking Incredible with him. Above Muschenberg, moving night, Incredible and the boy rocket wildly out of control, spraying sparks in every direction. Mr. I grabbing at the cape desperately for the bomb.
Hey, let go! You're wrecking my flight pattern. Let go of my cape. We're gonna rip it.
Incredible finally grabs hold of the bomb and it flings it free. Both he and the bomb fall onto the elevated train tracks below. The bomb explodes, blowing away a large section of the track. Incredible gruenly looks up. A train is coming and heading straight for the section of track that is no longer there. Incredible sets his sets his jaw and starts running toward the oncoming train, leaping to chase him to intercept the train before it gets there. He pulls up and plants himself. The expression on his face says it all. This is going to hurt. The train hits. Mr. Incredible taking the full impact. Rail ties break behind Incredible's feet, spraying in all directions as Incredible miraculously wrestles the train to a stop. Streets below trestle. Later. Police and paramedics have arrived. Quartering off the accident scene and treating the injured, Mr. Incredible hands Buddy over to the police.
Take this one home and make sure his mom knows what he's been doing.
I could help you. You're making a mistake.
The cops shove Buddy into the backseat of their car.
The injured jumper. You sent paramedics?
They've already picked him up.
The blast in that building was caused by Bon Voyage, who I caught in the act of robbing the vault. We might be able to nab him if we set up a perimeter.
You mean he got away?
Yeah, well, Skippy here made sure of
Better
that.
point.
You're not affiliated with me!
A tiny alarm sounds. Incredible checks his wristwatch.
Holy smokes, I'm late. Listen, I've got to be somewhere.
He signals the Incredible with a remote. It roars into view, squeals to a stop next to him.
But what about Bon Voyage?
Any other night I'd go after him myself, but I've really got to go. Don't worry, we'll get him. Eventually.
He fires the afterburners. The cops watch in dismay as the Incredible roars off. A downtown cathedral. The Incredible pulls up in front, converting back into a sedan. Inside Cathedral lobby, Mr. Incredible enters, dressed smartly in a tux, fumbling with his tie.
You're very late.
Is the night still young? How do I look?
His best man, Lucrez, aka Frozone, stops him before he...
The mask. You still got the mask.
Best reaches up and pulls off his Mr. Incredible mask. Bob takes a deep breath and pushes open the chapel doors.
Showtime.
Chapel. Bob, the groom, stands at the altar with his bride. Helen, whom was quickly realized is also Elastigirl.
Robert Golden, do you take Helen Trucks to be your lawful wedded wife?
Cutting it kind of close, don't you think?
You need to be more flexible.
I love you, but if we're going to make this work, you got to be more than Mr. Incredible. You know that, don't you?
As long as you both shall live.
I do.
They kiss. A crowd of superheroes cheers from the pews.
As long as we both shall live, no matter what happens.
We're superheroes. What could happen?
Video footage. An anchor woman reports from a news desk. A Chiron displays the visage of Mr. Incredible.
In a
Sorry,
stunning
Mr.
turn of events, a super is being sued for saving someone apparently didn't want to be saved. The plaintiff, Oliver Sansweet, who was foiled in his attempted suicide by Mr. Incredible, has filed suit against the famed superhero in Superior Court.
Film footage. Outside the courthouse. Sansweet's lawyer stands next to him on the crowded front steps and speaks to a cluster of reporters.
Mr. Sansweet didn't ask to be saved. Mr. Sansweet didn't want to be saved. And the injury received from Mr. Incredible's actions caused him daily pain.
The crowd stirs as a business-suited Mr. Incredible appears and points a threatening figure at Sansweet.
I saved your life.
You ruined my death.
Listen, you little piece of...
My client has no further comment at this time.
Film footage. Shots of the train accident scene.
5 days later, another suit was filled by the victims of the L train accident.
Film footage. Shots of a courtroom filled with neck-braced train wreck victims. A lawyer goes through his paces, often gesturing toward a glowing Mr. Incredible.
Incredible's court losses cost the government millions and opened the floodgates for dozens of similar lawsuits against superheroes the world over.
A series of spinning newspaper headlines describing the succession of lawsuits brought against superheroes. Dyna Guy sued. Super damages. X-ray vision. Peeping Tom. Irate taxpayer demonstrates waving place cards that read, "No more superhero ballots. Super expensive," etc. Film footage. A Congress addresses his colleagues from the floor of the House of Representatives.
It is time for their secret identities to become their only identity. Time for them to join us or go away. Under tremendous public pressure and the crushing financial burden of an ever-mounting series of lawsuits, the government quietly initiated the Superhero Relocation Program.
Film footage, superheroes exiting the public stage as they wave goodbye. Alan Nixon. Ducked into cars in a shower of popping flashbulbs, cheered by supporters, jeered by opponents, etc.
The Sippers would no longer be held accountable for past actions in exchange for a promise to never again resume hero work. Where are they now?
Film footage, a throng of people mill about the city streets in a diverse anonymity.
They are living among us, living as we do. Average citizens, average heroes, quietly and anonymously, continuing to make the world a better place.
Music crescendos as cameras lift up to the horizon and the sun streaming through the clouds. Cut to extreme close-up in insurance form. A stamp slams down, leaving the word denied in red ink. Interior insurance company Bob's cubicle day. A small, frail woman in her mid-70s named Muriel Hodgson blinks in shock.
Denied? You're denying my claim?
Her claims adjuster, Bob Parr, looks up. He looks familiar. Fade-in title, 15 years later. It's none other than Mr. Incredible himself. Now balding, 64 pounds heavier and dressed in a too tight white-collared shirt. Hodgson sits across from him, bewildered and upset.
I don't understand. I have full coverage.
Sorry, Mrs. Hodgson, but our liability is spelled out in paragraph 17.
I can't pay for this.
Excuse me. Claims? Bob Parr?
Intercut. Helen, inside Parr home, kitchen, same time. Helen Parr chats amiably as she bathes in her happy toddler Jack in the sink of their airy ranch-style kitchen. Her hairstyle has changed, her hips have widened a little, but motherhood has agreed with her, and little else has changed from Elastigirl days. A stack of empty moving boxes are stacked haphazardly near the door.
I'm calling to celebrate a momentous occasion. We are now officially moved in.
Intercut with Bob.
Great, honey. And the last 3 years don't count because...
Because I finally unpacked the last box, so now it's official. Why do we have so much junk?
Listen, honey, I've got a client here.
Say no more. Go save the world one policy at a time, honey. I gotta go pick up the kids from school. I'll see you tonight.
Bye, honey. Excuse me, where were we?
Oh, sorry. I'm on a fixed income. If you can't help me, I don't know what I'll do.
Bob stares at her, emphasizing completely. He stands up and leans out of his cubicle, looks down the hallway in both directions, makes sure the coast is clear.
All right, listen closely. I'd like to help you, but I can't.
He hands her a pen and a pad of paper. He leans closer, his voice low.
I'd like to tell you to take a copy of your policy to Norma Wilcox.
He stops and looks up. She's staring at him blankly, completely puzzled. Bob reaches over and taps her pad. Suddenly, understanding, she begins to scribble.
Norma Wilcox, Wilcox, on the 3rd floor. But I can't. I would advise against asking her for a WS-2475 form, which you should not fill out and file with a man named Oliver Jenkins in our legal department on the 7th floor. Wouldn't expect someone to get back to you quickly to resolve the matter. I'd like to help, but there's nothing I can do.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I know you're upset. Pretend you're upset.
Understanding, she smiles, stands up, and exits weeping. Bob grins. He's beaten the system. The old lady is gone for a total of 6 seconds when Bob's supervisor, Gilbert Huph, enters. Huph, an anal, micromanaging little troll with a loud voice, throws a folder on Bob's desk.
You authorized payment on the Walker policy?
Sorry, I needed a second. Someone broke into their house, Mr. Huph. Their policy clearly covers them against...
I don't want to know about their coverage. Bob, don't tell me about their coverage. Tell me how you're keeping InsureCare in the black. Tell me how that's possible with you writing checks to every Harry Hardluck and Sally sob story that gives you a phone call.
Huph leaves. Bob stands there impatiently, then sits knocking his pencil holder over. Principal's office, Adams School, day. Helen enters and sees her son, Dash. Age 10, blonde hair. Sitting hunched in a chair before him are two men. Dash's teacher, Bernie Kropp, balding, tense, and looking older than his 36 years, and the school's principal. I appreciate you coming down here so quickly, Mrs. Parr. Helen enters and takes a seat. Dash stares at the floor.
What's this about? Has Dash done something wrong?
He's a disruptive influence, and he openly mocks me from the class.
He says.
I know it's you. He puts thumbtacks on my stool.
You saw him do this?
Well, no, really, no, actually not.
Then how do you know it was him?
I hit a camera. This time I got him.
Kropp slips a disc out of his jacket, and into a machine hooked up to a TV monitor. Dash reacts. He didn't expect this. Helen sees this, shoots Dash a sharp look. In the video, Kropp approaches his stool and sits suddenly. He jumps in pain. The students laugh. Kropp whirls to the adults in the room exponentially.
See? What, you don't see it?
He is met with blank stares. With an exasperated sound, Kropp replays the video, pausing it, and pointing to a still-seated Dash.
He moves! Right there! Right as I'm sitting down. I don't know how he does it.
Kropp forwards and rewinds back and forth through Dash's image does pop a bit. He remains clearly in his seat.
But there's no attack on my stool before. He moves, and after he moves, there's an attack. Coincidence? I think not.
Helen jerks her head toward Kropp, gives the principal a, you see he's crazy, don't you look. He turns to Kropp. Bernie.
Don't Bernie me. This little rat is guilty.
You and your son can go now, Mrs. Parr. I'm sorry for the trouble. Helen gives the principal a thin smile and hustles Dash from the room, leaving Kropp unapologetic.
Let him go again. He's guilty. You can see on his smug little face. Guilty, 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 no!
Inside Helen's car, moving. Dash stares out the window in an angry silence, watching the trees go by. Helen looks at him and softens.
Dash, this is the third time this year you've been sent to the office. You need to find a better outlet, a constructive outlet.
Maybe I could. Let me go out for sports.
Honey, you know why we can't do that.
But I promise I'll slow up. I'll only be the best by like a tiny little bit.
Dashiell Robert Parr, you are an incredibly competitive boy, a bit of a show-off. The last thing you need is temptation.
You always say do your best. You don't really mean it. Why can't I do the best I can do?
Right now, honey, the world just wants us to fit in. And to fit in, we must be like everyone else.
Our dad always said our powers were nothing to be ashamed of. Our powers made us special.
Everyone's special, Dash.
Which is another way of saying no one is.
Exterior Western View Junior High day. Shy, insecure Violet Parr, 14, waits nervously behind a hedge near the front entrance. The bell sounds, signaling the end of the school day. Violet turns toward the door. And as it swings open, and out steps Tony Rydinger, handsome, confident, and crushworthy. He pauses and is immediately surrounded by friends. As Tony descends the steps with his pals, tossing cool nods at flirty girls, he passes by Violet, who peers at him over the top of some bushes. He stops, aware of being watched, and looks back. She's not there. Another angle, from the other side of the bush, reveals Violet's clothes hang in midair, with no head. Tony looks directly at the empty space where Violet's head should be, and seeing nothing. Gives up and walks away. Violet's head reappears, blushing. She touches her burning cheeks.
You looked at me.
A car horn honks off screen. Violet hustles across the expansive lawn, through the sea of boys and girls, together to her mother's waiting station wagon. Exterior Malago Freeway, late afternoon. Cars stretch off into infinity, idling and immobile. It's a traffic jam from hell, and right in the middle of it, squeezed into a scruffy car, many sizes too small, sits Bob, trying not to be angry. I didn't know the 405 was in this. Exterior pair home later, a pleasant, unexceptional home in a neighborhood full of pleasant, unexceptional homes. Bob Cars pulls onto the driveway. The engine sputters a long time before finally exhilarating with a tired gasp. Bob steps out and slips on a skateboard left in the driveway. He falls backward, grabbing the roof of the car to steady himself. He pushes the skateboard away, muttering darkly, and notices that he's inadvertently crumbled the roof with his super grip.
Oh, great.
He decides to let it go and pushes the door closed. It won't go. He tries again, a little harder this time. No go. He slams the door closed, shattering the window. Bob loses it. He seizes the car, lifting it overhead as if ready to fling it over the far horizon, and stops. A 5-year-old neighborhood kid on a big-wheeled tricycle, Rusty McCluster, stares on in shock and awe. Frozen with the car overhead, Bob stares back, then sets his car down on the driveway and eases into his house as if nothing had happened. Interior, paired dining room, night. Helen spoons baby food into the mouth of Jack, with all the facial English known to parents, most of which Jack squeezes back out onto his chin, where it is adamantly caught on Ellen's spoon and reintroduced into the baby's mouth.
Mom, you're making weird faces again.
No, I'm not.
You make weird faces, honey.
Do you have to read at the table?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Helen sighs. She turns her attention to Dash, who is wrestling with an uncut slab of steak.
Smaller bites, Dash. Bob, could you help the carnivore cut his meat?
Bob sighs, puts down the paper, grabs a knife and fork, reaches over to Dash's plate, and begins to cut his meat.
Dash, you have something you want to tell your father about school?
Well, we dissected a frog.
Dash got sent to the office again.
Good.
No, Bob, that's bad.
What?
Dash got sent to the office again.
What for?
Nothing.
He put a tack on the teacher's chair during class.
Nobody saw me. You can barely see me on the tape.
Caught you on tape and you still got away with it? Whoa, you must have been booking. How fast do you think you were?
Bob, we are not encouraging this.
I'm not encouraging. I'm just asking how fast he was.
Honey.
A loud crack is heard. Bob stops cutting, realizing that he's sawed right through the table with his dinner knife.
Oh, great. First the car, not going to fix the table.
The car? What happened to the car?
Bob gives Dash his plate of food, and exits into the kitchen.
I'm getting a new plate.
What about you, Vi? How was school?
Nothing to report.
You've hardly touched your food.
I'm not hungry for meatloaf.
Well, it is leftover night. We have steak, pasta. What are you hungry for?
Tony Rydinger.
Shut up!
Well, you are.
I said shut up, you little insect!
Well, she is.
Do not shout at the table. Honey.
Kids, listen to your mother.
Dash and Violet swap glares. All resume eating. Then...
Should be eating if we were having Tony love.
That's it!
Violet lunges across the table, vanishing. Save for her clothes, they wrestle. Dash escapes, racing around the table in a blur, slapping at the back of Vi's head before crashing into a force field she throws in his path.
Hey, no force fields!
You started it.
Stop it, Dash, Violet!
Helen's arms stretch across the table as she struggles to keep the kids apart. Jack laughs, loving the chaos. Inside the kitchen, oblivious to the melee, Bob gets a new plate from the cupboard, still pursuing the newspaper. The headline reads, Helio missing. With it is a photo of a lean, striking man, early 40s, sporting wraparound, sunglasses, and a full head of blonde hair.
MJ Palladino, long and outspoken advocate of superhero rights, is missing. Gazerbee?
Bob, it's time to engage. Do something.
Bob snaps out of it, turns toward the dining room. Resume dining room. Bob enters, startled to see the chaos.
Don't just stand there. I need you to intervene.
Okay, I'm intervening. I am intervening.
Bob hoists up the dinner table, and everyone with it over his head. Dash and V dangle from Helen's tangled arms and continue to scrap. Jack shrieks happily. The doorbell rings. Everyone freezes. Then quickly resume their original quiet dining positions. Dash answers the door. Lucius Best, a.k.a. Frozone, stands in the doorway, looking sharp in a leather jacket like Helen. He, too, has weathered the post-superhero years well.
Hey, Lucius!
Hey, Speedo. Hey, Helen.
Nice of you to drop by.
Never heard of that one before.
Hey, Lucius! Lucius turns to see Dash, spurt a mouthful of water into the air. Best hand flashes out. The air cracks with a sudden chill and the water freezes solid. Lucius leaps, catches the ice before it hits the ground. Dash sinks back, disappointed.
Oh, I like it when it shatters.
I'll be back later.
Where are you two going?
Wednesday.
Bowling night. Say hello to Honey for me, Lucius.
Will do. Good night, Helen. Night, kids.
Bob and Lucius exit, closing the door behind them. Helen turns back to Dash.
Don't you think that you've avoided talking about your trip to the principal's office, young man? Your father and I are still going to discuss it.
I'm not the only kid who gets sent to the office, you know.
Other kids don't have superpowers. Now, it's perfectly normal for you to feel...
Normal? What do you know about normal? What does anyone in our family know about normal? The only normal one here is Jack.
Now, wait a minute, young lady.
We act normal. I want to be normal. The only normal... Whoop. She says it again. The only normal one is Jack, and he's not even toilet trained.
Fired by hearing his name, Jack gleefully spits a mouthful of baby food onto his bib and cracks up.
Lucky. And then about the being normal.
Inside Lucius' car, city streets, minutes later. Bob and Lucius sit in Lucius' large, comfortable sedan, which is parked in a rundown city neighborhood. A portable police scanner sits on the dashboard, volume low, occasionally interrupting his story.
So now I'm in deep trouble. I mean, one more jolt of this death ray, and I'm an epitaph. Somehow I managed to find cover. And what does Dr. Toxic do?
He starts monologuing.
He starts like this prepared speech of how feeble I am compared to him, how inevitable my defeat is, and then how the world will soon be his, yada, yada, yada.
Yammering.
I mean, the guy has me on a platter, and he won't shut up.
6-1 Sam, 8 Municipburg. Go ahead. Possible 2356 in progress at 115 Weatherford Way.
Bob turns up the volume, suddenly intense.
2356. What is that? Robbery?
This is just sad.
Yeah, robbery. Want to catch a robber?
Tell the truth, I'd rather go bowling. What if we actually did what our wives think we're doing? Just to mix things up.
Exterior Lucius' car. Widen to reveal the silhouette of a woman watching Bob and Lucius from the driver's seat of a black sports car, discreetly parked in a dark alley. She lowers her binoculars and speaks into a headset.
He's not alone. The fat guy's still with him. They're just talking.
Resume Frozone and Bob.
What are we doing here, Bob?
We're protecting people.
Nobody asked us.
You need an invitation?
I like one, yes. We keep sneaking out to do this, and remember Gazebeam? We had trouble addressing civilian life, too.
Yeah, there was something about him in the paper. When was the last time you saw him?
I don't see anyone from the old days, Bob. Just you. We're pushing our luck as it is. It was fun the first time, but we keep doing this, and...
The scanner squawks suddenly.
We have a report of a fire at 4th and Elias.
A fire. We're close. Yeah, baby.
Bob pulls a ski mask over his face, Shaking his head at his own complacency, Lucius does likewise.
Gonna get caught.
She starts the car and U-turns towards the fire. City streets, night, continuous. Bob enthusiastically shouts echo off the darkened buildings as the sedan peels off, followed by a beat later by the mysterious blonde in the black sports car. Interior apartment building. Minutes later. Raging inferno. Bob descends the burning steps, stops in the hallway. Both he and Frozone carry several passed-out apartment dwellers on their shoulders.
Is that everybody?
Yeah, that's everyone.
The building is beginning to collapse. They're trapped, with no way out. Frozone tries to ice the burning walls, but his ray is weak and ineffective.
Can't you put this out?
I can't bring it down a layer thick enough. It's evaporating too fast.
What's that mean?
It means it's hot, and I'm dehydrated, Bob.
You're out of ice? You can't run out of ice. I thought you could use the water in the air.
There is no water in this air. What's your excuse? Run out of muscles?
I can't just go smashing through walls. The building's getting weaker by the second. It'll come down on top of us.
I wanted to go bowling.
A large chunk of ceiling smashes to the floor in a burning heap. Bob looks around nervously, then fixes his gaze towards the door. He shifts his stack of unconscious victims to one shoulder and looks at Lucius.
All right, stay on my tail. This is going to get hot.
Bob begins a shout that gets louder as he runs into the burning hallway. Lucius half-step behind him. Traveling with Bob and Lucius, as they race through the flames with their unconscious loads, suddenly a brick wall appears. Bob picks up speed and lowers his free shoulder onto it. The heroes and their rescued smash through the wall just as the building behind them collapses. Bob, Frozone, and the pile of near victims are saved. An alarm sounds. Bob and Frozone realize they're inside a jewelry store. Rookie cop spies the masked men and draws his pistol. Frozone spies a water cooler. He grabs a paper cup. Freeze!
I'm thirsty.
Lucius moves the cup under the tap. The jittery rookie cocks his pistol's hammer. I said freeze!
I'm just getting a drink.
His eyes fixed on the cup, Lucius slowly brings the cup to his lips and drinks. His face becomes serene. All right, you've had your drink. Now I want you to...
I know.
Lucius drops the cup, raising his hands in front of him.
Breathe.
A frigid splash spills the air on the street outside. 2 fire trucks and a police car screech, having arrived in front. Hearing the alarm, 2 veteran cops bust into the inside jewelry store. Continuous. Drawing their guns, the cops are stopped by a bewildering sight. A recovering heap of rescued fire victims at the base of an enormous hole in the wall, standing watch over them, is the rookie stunned and blinking under a layer of ice. A back hallway. Same time. Bob and Lucius jump inside Lucius' car, pulling off their ski masks.
That was way too close. We are not doing that again.
They drive out of frame, revealing a black sports car hidden in another alley behind. At the wheel is a beautiful, mysterious woman with platinum blonde hair. She watches them drive off. Verify, you want to switch targets? Over.
Trust me. This is the one he's been looking for.
Living room, night. Bob enters quietly through the kitchen, pausing in the kitchen long enough to nap the remaining hunk of chocolate cake. Fuming pleasantly as he chews, he moves into the living room when a voice comes out of the darkness.
You said you'd be back by 11.
Bob freezes. A light snaps on. A chair swirls around. It's Helen, wearing her robe and a peeved expression.
I said I'd be back later.
I assumed you'd be back later. If you came back at all, you'd be back later.
Well, back, okay.
Bob moves to go, but Helen's left arm stretches and stops him. Plucking a small, dusty fragment of concrete off his coat, she crosses to him, catching up with her hand.
Is this rubble?
It's just a little workout. just to stay loose.
You know how I feel about that, Bob. Darn you, we just got settled. We can't blow our cover again.
The building was coming down anyway.
What? You knocked down a building?
It was on fire, structurally unsound. It was coming down anyway.
Tell me it's not the police scanner again.
I performed a public service. You act like that's a bad thing.
It is a bad thing, Bob. Uprooting our family again because you have to relive the glory days is a very bad thing.
Hey, reliving the glory days is better than acting like they didn't happen.
Yes, they happened. But this, our family, it's what's happening now, Bob. And you're missing this. I can't believe you don't want to go to your own son's graduation.
Not a graduation. He's moving from the 4th grade to the 5th grade.
It's a ceremony.
It's psychotic. They keep creating new ways to celebrate mediocrity, but if someone is genuinely exceptional, they shut them down because they don't want everybody else to feel bad.
This is not about you, Bob. This is about Dash.
You want to help Dash? Let him actually compete. Let him go out for sports.
I will not be made the enemy here. You know why we can't do that.
Because he'd be great.
This is not about you.
An abrupt breeze ripples in the air, ruffling some loose papers on the coffee table.
All right, Dash. I know you're listening. Come on out.
You too, young lady.
Dash moves out from behind a door. Violet's head rematerializes from behind the couch. She stands up, embarrassed. Bob moves next to Helen, becoming parental.
It's okay, kids. We're just having a discussion.
Pretty loud discussion.
That's okay. What's important is that Mommy and I are always a team. Always united against forces of...
Pig-headedness.
I was going to say evil or something.
We're sorry we woke you. Everything's okay. Go back to bed. It's late. In fact, we should all be in bed.
Bob frowns and turns away, following the kids back toward the bedroom. Insurance, Bob's cubicle, following morning. Bob sits at his tiny desk. One look at his bleary face says it all. He hasn't slept all night. He has intercom beeps. Bob glares at it, beep, then hits answer.
Mr. Huph wants you in his office. Now.
Bob releases the intercom button, sighs. Mirage looks around Bob's cramped cubicle, her gaze following to the open briefcase on Bob's desk. Inside Hump's office, marginally bigger than Bob's office with a coveted window to the outside world, painfully clean and joyless, every pencil sharpened, every paper perfectly stacked and aligned to run parallel to the edge of the desktop.
Down, Bob. I'm not happy, Bob. Not happy. Ask me why.
Hup raises from his desk and crosses to Bob.
Okay. Why?
Why what? Be specific, Bob.
Bob's eyes are drawn to the window outside across the street. A stocky man lingers suspiciously in an alleyway.
Why are you unhappy?
Your customers make me unhappy.
You've gotten complaints?
Complaints I can handle. What I can't handle is your customers' inexplicable knowledge of InsureCare's inner workings. They're experts, Bob, exploiting every loophole, dodging every obstacle. They're penetrating the bureaucracy.
Did I do something illegal?
No.
Are you saying we shouldn't help our customers?
The law requires that I say no.
We're supposed to help people.
We're supposed to help our people, starting with our stockholders, Bob. Who's helping them out, huh?
Draws a calming breath. Affects a statesman-like air.
You know, Bob, a company...
At least like an enormous clock.
Like an enormous clock? Yes, precisely. It only works if all the little cogs mesh together.
Bob's attention returns to the window. The stocky man is a smaller one, like an attack dog. Bob is suddenly alert, every muscle tensed and ready.
A clock needs to be clean, well lubricated, wound tight. The best clocks have jewel movements, cogs that fit. That
cooperate by design. I'm being metaphorical, Bob. You know what I mean by cooperative cogs? Bob? Bob?
Hum follows Bob's gaze to the window on the street. The larger man clubs the smaller man with a mace. He crumbles to the sidewalk. Hum jerks Bob's face back toward his.
Look at me when I'm talking to you, Parr.
The man up there, he needs help.
Do not change the subject, Bob. We're discussing your attitude.
But he's getting mugged.
Well, let's hope we don't cover him.
I'll be right back.
Stop right now or you're fired.
Bob hesitates, his hand on the knob of the open door, fighting back the very core of his being. Hum narrows his eyes, speaking softly.
Close the door now.
Neck cords straining. Bob slowly shuts the door. He releases the knob, which he's crumbled in rage.
Get over here now.
Bob resumes his position in front of Hum, but his gaze invariably returns to the scene outside the window. Bob's point of view, POV. The merger pockets his blunder and runs off, leaving his victim dazed and helpless on the sidewalk.
He got away.
Good thing, too. You were this close to losing your
Hum squeaks as Bob's enormous right hand flashes out and clumps around his neck. Outer hallway. Hump's body bursts through a wall and into another, Jensen tumbling face down onto a copy machine. It begins to spit out multiple copies of his pressed face. Hum has in fact gone through several walls, 4 in total, and 3 adjoining offices before skidding across the floor of the newly visible hallway beyond. The occupants of adjacent offices lean into view, gawking in astonishment through their shattered walls, first at Hum's sprawled form, then one by one back at Bob.
Uh-oh.
Hospital, hallway, hours later. Through the window in the door, we get a glimpse of Hump in a full body cast. Bob, seated on a bench outside, looks up as Rydinger, a haggard-faced man in a black suit and tie, quietly exits Hump's room. He stops, looks at Bob, then turns away, heading to the elevator. Bob follows after him.
How is he?
He'll live,
I'm fired, aren't I?
you think.
What can I say, Rick?
Nothing you haven't said before.
Someone was in trouble.
Someone's always in trouble.
I had to do something.
Yeah, every time you say those words, it means a month and a half of trouble for me, Bob. Minimum. It means hundreds and thousands of taxpayer dollars.
I know.
We gotta pay to keep the company quiet. We gotta pay damages, erase memories, relocate your family every time it gets harder. Money, 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 money. We can't keep doing this, Bob. We appreciate what you did in the old days. Those days are over. From now on, you're on your own.
The elevator door opens. Digger steps back inside. Bob stares at the floor, beaten. Digger looks at him with pity. Then,
Listen, Bob, maybe I can relocate you for old time's sake.
No, I can't do that to my family again. We just got settled. It'll be all right. I'll make it work.
Digger stares at Bob a long moment, a bittersweet smile.
Take care of yourself.
The elevator doors close. Bob stares at them, numb. Exterior, Bob's driveway. Dusk. Bob climbs out of his car and is surprised to find someone watching him. The kid on the big wheel, waiting in exactly the same spot as the night before.
What are you waiting for?
I don't know. Something amazing, I guess.
A rueful smile blooms and dies on Bob's face.
Me too, kid. Me too.
Interior, Bob's den, a cramped windowless museum of Mr. Incredible Arcadia, walls and shelves cluttered with mementos of his storied past, framed photos, newspaper, front pages, magazines, and displayed on the wall under plexiglass, his Mr. Incredible suit. Bob enters and closes the door. He opens his briefcase, pulls out an insurance employee manual. Bob growls and rips it in half, tossing it in the trash can. Continued on a roll now, he begins to dump the entire contents of his briefcase into the trash when clunk. Bob double takes. Startled by the heavy sound, he peers over the edge of the desk into the trash and sees a large manila envelope. He picks it up and is surprised it's heavy. He opens it and pulls out a flat panel about half an inch thick. On it is printed "This and Up." He turns the panel as instructed. In the center is a small circle with writing beneath it. Bob squints, unable to read the tiny letters. He brings it closer. His point of view as the letters slowly come into focus.
Hold still.
Suddenly, the panel projects a red grid over Bob's eye. We hear a robotic female voice.
Match Mr. Incredible.
Bob drops the panel in surprise. It clatters to the desk, still functioning. A small foot-long rod with a metal ball at the top pops out from the panel. The ball at the tip makes a quick single revolution, scanning the surrounding room with a vertical beam.
Room is secure. Commence message.
The panel flickers. It's a video screen. An image appears, the beautiful platinum blonde woman who visited Bob's office earlier that day.
Hello, Mr. Incredible. My name is Mirage. Yes, we know who you are. Rest assured, your secret is safe with us. Actually, we have something in common. According to the government, neither of us exists. Please pay attention that this message is classified and will not be repeated.
Bob's moves closer, mesmerized.
I represent a top secret division of the government designed and testing experimental technology, and we have need of your unique abilities.
Honey.
Bob startles, then strains to listen to the message.
Something has happened in our remote testing facility.
What?
A highly experimental prototype robot has escaped our control.
Dinner's ready.
Although it is contained within an isolated area.
Okay.
Bob grabs a pen and a scrap of paper and starts to scribble ferociously, only to find the pen dry. Cursing, he rummages for a working pen, finds one, and begins to take notes.
It threatens to cause incalculable damage to itself and to our facilities, jeopardizing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of equipment and research. Only with someone...
Is someone there?
Your unique abilities can contain the robot without completely destroying it.
The TV, I'm trying to watch.
Because of its highly sensitive nature.
Well, stop trying. It's time for dinner.
This mission does not exist, nor will it ever exist.
1 minute.
If you accept this payment, or your payment will be equivalent to your current annual salary.
Bob's jaw goes slack. He scribbles big $.
Call the number on the screen. Voice matching will be used to ensure security. The supers aren't gone, Mr. Incredible. You're still here. You can still do great things, or you can listen to your police scanners. Your choice. You have 24 hours to respond. Think about it.
Bob finishes scribbling. His mind is reeling. Heroic music begins to stir. A new light comes into Bob's eyes as they turn to the pictures on the wall. Of Mr. Incredible's gallant past, the robotic voice relays a last message.
This message will self-destruct.
Bob's eyes fall to the panel. Uh-oh. Hallway. Outside Bob's den. We hear a muffled boom from inside. After a long beat, the ceiling sprinklers come on, followed by the family shouts from the dining room. The den door opens and Bob emerges in a cloud of smoke, so preoccupied that he's slow to notice the downpour. Inside. Later, Bob and Helen finish drying the inside of the house.
You're one distracted guy.
Am I? Don't mean to be.
Helen looks at Bob, puts a tender arm around him.
I know you miss being a hero, and your job is frustrating, and I just want you to know how much it means to me that you stay at it anyway.
Honey, about the job.
What?
Something happened.
Helen glares at him, clearly expecting the worst.
What?
The company's sending me to a conference out of town. I'll be gone for a few days.
A conference? They've never sent you to a conference before.
Helen gives Bob a questioning look. Bob tenses. Pause.
This is good, isn't it?
Yes.
You see? They're finally recognizing your talents. You're moving up. It's wonderful.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Bob's den. Later. Bob is on the phone glancing at the Mr. Incredible suit in his display case. After a ring, a female voice answers.
This is Mr. Incredible. I'm in.
Above the clouds, day. A sleek-looking Mata jet slices the sky. Inside the jet, Bob, clad in his old and now too tight Mr. Incredible suit. Mirage is on board. She debriefs him.
The Omnidroid 9000 is a top-secret prototype battle droid. Its artificial intelligence enables it to solve any problem it's confronted with, and, unfortunately...
Let me guess, it got smart enough to wonder why it had to take orders.
We lost control, and now it's loose in the jungle, threatening our facility. We've had to evacuate all personnel from the island for their own safety. They're waiting offshore for the all-clear.
How am I going in?
The Omnidroid's defensive have necessitated an airdrop from 5,000 feet. Its cloaking devices make it difficult to track, although we're pretty sure it's on the southern half of the island. One more thing. Obviously, it represents a significant investment.
You want me to shut it down without completely destroying it?
You are Mr. Incredible.
Drop pod, bay. After a few unsuccessful tries, Mr. Incredible manages to squeeze his girth into the pod. Mirage enters the pod, bay, presses the pod speaker switch.
Remember, it's a learning robot. Every moment you spend fighting it only increases its knowledge of how to beat you.
Shut it down, do it quickly, don't destroy it.
And don't die.
Bob shoots Mirage a wan smile.
Great. Thanks.
The pod is blasted from the jet and disappears into the clouds above the island. Slow, dissolve to, exterior, Nomanish jungle. Minutes later, Bob groans as he tries to disengage his generously belly from the tiny pod. Finally, with a frustrated yell, he rips the pod in half. Free! He stretches. He does a few toe touches and twists to shake out the kinks. He's ready.
Showtime.
He jogs off into the jungle to track the robot. A series of dissolves. As an out-of-shape Bob jogs deeper and deeper into the jungle, growing more winded with each passing mile. His sides ache, and he pauses now, and then to catch his breath, but he shakes it off and resumes his pursuit. Dissolve 2, later. The forest is still now, and Bob's footfalls and heavy breathing are the only signs we hear. Bob still scans the jungle, but he's tiring, and he pauses to lean against a banyan tree to catch his breath. And he notches large slash marks in the side of the tree. He runs his hand over them. They're fresh, in the dirt. Near his feet is a giant X-shaped footprint. With a loud crack, the trees behind him split apart. The Omnidroid is upon him. It slashes at him, and he dodges, but not quickly enough, and the bot's claws catches him in the shoulder, drawing blood. Fire comes into Bob's eyes, and when the bot slashes again, he's ready, leaping over the bot and landing on his feet on the opposite side. The bot is caught by a surprise, and in the split second it takes for the bot to find Bob. Bam! Bob has thrown a mammoth punch and that sends the machine flying into the nearest tree. Bob lets out a happy snarl that sends, "You just got schooled by Mr. Incredible, baby." Deep within its metal shell, service swine and the bot rights itself, its eyelids fixing on Bob.
Uh-oh.
The bot charges. Once again, Bob tries his patented leap. Time slows as we cut to inside the bot's brain. A view screen shows the arc of Bob's leap being calculated by the bot. Resume wide shot. The bot swings, swatting Bob mid-jump. Bob sails into a banyan tree so hard that it spills the tree trunk. Bob is stunned. The bot has quickly learned and countered. The bot changes again. With Bob, as he runs from his life, the Omnidroid, hot on his tail, Bob races through the jungle with his surprise speed, but his added weight is slowing him down. He cuts hard to his right and dives. Off a cliff, Bob tumbles and slides down the rocky near vertical face, followed by a relentless machine. It rolls past him and lands in his patch. Bob flings boulders in the machine, and the face layer immediately incorporating Bob's moves into his own attack. The Omnidroid leaps high in the air and nearly lands on the top of Bob, who leaps clear and tumbles to the bottom of the cliff. Lava fields. Bob reels, and before he knows what's happening, the Omnidroid is there, driving him toward the bubbling hot pools of lava. Bob resists the bot with all his might, but his feet can't hold the rock surface, and as he is pushed ever closer to the white hot lava, fear begins to grip his mind. Bob and the Omnidroid grip each other like widely mismatched wrestlers, with Bob at lava's edge now, losing ground. Bob is straining desperate. Then something in him snaps. He fills with rage, and with a roar, he jerks to one side and flips the Omnidroid to the lava. The machine hits the lava with a hissy splat and sinks into the hot glow and disappears. Bob is wild. He laughs, pointing at the bot grave with a gesture of defiance, and snap, throws his back out. Suddenly he can't breathe.
Oh, my back.
The ground explodes beneath him, spinning. The rock claws rise from the lava, grip the rock, and the dreaded Omnidroid draws itself out of the lava, dripping magma, its metal body glowing red as it came from hell itself. Bob looks down. The ground is splitting into chunks beneath his feet, in pain, barely able to move. Bob makes a desperate leap to a chunk of road, and it breaks free and lands pathetically on top. The bot snatches him off. The bot snatches him off and slams him to the ground, and then it lifts Bob up, grabbing his feet with another claw, and begins to pull Bob apart. Bob strains. Then pop! His back realigns. Bob is a new man. With a laugh, he jackknifes, ripping off one of his Omnidroid claws. He drops underneath the bot, causing the bot to open a second eye and its underbelly to find him. Bob soars, seizing the eye, ripping it off the bot's body and flinging it in the lava pool. Before the bot can react, Bob has climbed inside the hole in the belly. The bot knows Bob is inside and beginning to stab itself wildly to get at him, puncturing itself again and again, tearing itself apart, until, sparking and sputtering, it staggers and shuts down. Bob punches a hole in the top, whistling and slapping it aside. The bot drunkenly rouses and makes a final grab for Bob's deep within its belly and rips out its own metallic guts and keels over a lifeless scrap pile. Bob hops out, smiling. Mr. Incredible's work is done. In a nearby tree, an exotic bird, which looks strangely out of place, cocks its head to one side. Camera pushes into one of its eyes as a metal iris appears. Its camera lens. A shadowed figure stands with Mirage, watching this all on a bank of video screens.
Amazing. Must bring him back. Sound the all clear. And invite him to dinner.
Interior, dining hall, outer corridor, early evening. A transport arrives and Bob steps out, dressed in a tux. Interior dining hall. Bob opens the door, peeks inside. The hall is massive, with an open terrace that overlooks the tropical forest in the center of the room and an enormous dining table placed parallel to a fall of hot lava. Bob checks his watch, realizes he's early. A sudden rumble makes him look up. The lava fall parts, revealing a secret passageway. Mirage emerges. Bob instinctively pulls back, leaving the door open, just enough to watch. A silhouette figure follows after Mirage, gesturing animatedly. They pause to the entrance to the passageway. Their talk too distant to be heard. Sound causes Mirage to look in Bob's direction. Interior dining hall, outer corridor. Moments later, Mirage suspicious pushes open the dining hall doors, climbing out of the transpod. Bob notices her and smiles.
Am I overdressed?
Actually, you look rather dashing.
Interior dining hall. Bob and Mirage are seated at an enormous table that runs parallel to an equally large lava fall.
I take it our host is...
I'm sorry, he's not able to dine with us tonight. He hopes you'll understand.
Of course. I usually make it a point to know who I'm working for.
He prefers a certain amount of anonymity. Surely you, of all people, understand that.
I was just wondering, of all the places to settle down, why live...
With the Volcano. He's attracted to power. So am I. It's a weakness we share.
Seems a bit unstable.
I prefer to think of it as misunderstood.
Aren't we all?
Volcanic soil is among the most fertile on Earth. Everything at the table was grown right here. How does it compare?
Everything is delicious.
Bob raises his glass. Mirage smiles and does likewise. Montage. Incredible again. His self-esteem back. Bob returns home with renewed vigor. He bonds with his kids, gets frisky with Helen, and takes new pride in his appearance. He buys a new snazzy sports car for himself and a new car for Helen. After he says goodbye to Helen several mornings, clearly pretending to go off to the job, he no longer holds an insurer care. We see how he's actually spending his days, dropping weight and getting in shape. The super heroic workouts to do their job. Bob is in the best shape he's been in many years. Interior, Bob's bedroom. Morning, months later. Bob's dressed in a more expensive and tailored version of his insurer care suit. Pauses to examine the torn spot. His Mr. Incredible super suit.
Hurry, honey, or you'll be late for work.
Bob quickly stuffs his super suit in his briefcase and snaps it shut. Parr house, front doorstep, morning. Bob pauses at the doorstep. Helen enters and hugs him.
Have a great day, honey. Help customers, climb ladders.
Bacon.
All that jazz.
He plants a proud kiss on his lips. Bob exits. Exterior, E's house, day. Bob's new car pulls up to an imposing gate, a futuristic web of parallel laser beams. He turns toward a video screen and presses a button beneath it. The video screen lights up, revealing a blurry guard.
You have an appointment?
I'm an old friend. I just wanted...
All visitors are required to make arrangements.
The guard suddenly flinches from something below camera and is shooed off screen by a strident, husky female voice.
Get back, Rolf! Go back to the electric fence or something!
A pair of huge glasses fronting the top half of a head rises into the bottom half of the screen. Out of focus, this is Edna mode, known by her friends simply as E.
What is it? What do you want?
Bob removes his sunglasses and grins at the camera.
My God, you've gotten fat. Come in! Come, darling!
The gate opens and Bob drives up the long driveway that winds up the hill to E's tastefully arty house. Interior, E's house. E leads Bob through the tasteful, minimalistic entranceway into her massive living room. E is in her early 60s, half German, half Japanese, and like both of those small countries, not to be underestimated.
Yes, things are going quite well. My God, no complaints. But you know, it is not the same. Not the same at all.
Weren't you just in the news? Some show in Prague?
Milan, darling, Milan. Supermodels. Ha! Nothing super about them. Spoiled, stupid little stick figures with poofy lips who think only about themselves. Fat. I used to design for the gods. But perhaps you come with a challenge, eh? I was surprised to get your call.
Yeah, I just need a patch job.
Bob hands E his damaged suit. She examines it, frowning.
This is mega mesh. Outmoded but very sturdy. You've torn right through it. What have you done, Robert? Moonlighting hero work?
Must have happened a long time ago.
I see. This is a hobo suit. You can't be seen in this. I won't allow it. 15 years ago, maybe, but now.
E drops the suit into a trash can. Bob retrieves it.
What do you mean? You designed it.
I never look back, darling. It distracts from the now. You need a new suit. That much is certain.
New suit? Where the hell would I get?
You can't! It is impossible. I'm far too busy, so ask me now before I can become sane.
You want to make me a suit?
You push me too hard, darling, but I accept. It will be bold, dramatic, heroic.
Yeah, something classic, like Dynaguy. He had a great look. The cape, the boots.
No capes.
Isn't that my decision?
Unaccustomed to being questioned, he visibly stiffens.
Do you remember Thunderhead?
Flashback, Maelstrom in his prime. Beefy and B-movie handsome, decked out in a splendid outfit with elegant floor-length cape.
Tall, storm powers, nice man. Good with kids.
Resume scene. Bob knows where this is headed and moves to speak, but is instantly cut off by E.
September 15th of 58.
Resume flashback. A madman aims a missile launcher at a city across a bay. Maelstrom leaps into frame, dispatches him with a single punch, and turns the missile toward the open sea. His duty done, he turns and smiles at a young lady standing nearby, falling to notice that his cape has caught on the missile.
All is well, another day saved when
The rocket blasts into the distance, taking Maelstrom with it.
his cape snagged on a missile fin. His scorched remains were found several hundred miles away.
Intercut. Comically brief flashback as E describes them, of each super being doomed by his or her cape.
Maelstrom.
Wasn't the brightest bulb in the...
Slipstream, April 1957, Cape caught in a jet turbine.
You can't generalize about these.
Multi-man, express elevator, Dynaguy, snag on a takeoff, splash down, sucked into a vortex.
End flashback. E glares at Bob, declaring with an unsayable finality.
No capes. We'll go on. Your new suit will be finished before your next assignment.
You know I'm retired from hero work.
As am I, Robert. Yet here we are.
I only need a patch job, E, for sentimental reasons.
Fine. I will also fix the hobo suit.
E, you're the best of the best.
Yes, I know, darling. I know.
Interior Parr home. Master bedroom. Evening. Helen plucks one of Bob's enormous shirts from a stack of freshly cleaned laundry and hangs it up on their closet when something catches her eye. A long platinum blonde hair marged on Bob's suit jacket. Helen plucks it off, examining it. The phone rings. She goes to answer, hesitating when she hears.
I got it. Don't answer it, honey. I got it.
Helen frowns. Then there's something suspicious about Bob's eagerness. Interior Bob's den. Bob picks up the phone.
Hello?
Interior control room. Nominson.
We have a new assignment for you.
Interior master bedroom with Ellen. She carefully picks up the phone, places a hand over the mouthpiece, and listens in.
How soon can you get here?
I'll leave tomorrow morning.
Helen reacts. Interior Bob's den.
I understand. Goodbye.
Bob hangs up the phone and moves to the door, opening it. Helen is there, blocking the doorway. She forces a smile.
Who is that, honey? The office?
Another conference. Short notice, but duty calls.
Bob squeezes past her and exits. Helen stares into his den, feeling suspicious and impotent. Interior Parr garage, morning. Bob is seated in his new sports car, its engine purring. He belts himself. Ellen enters, still in her robe.
Bob.
What is it, honey?
A storm of conflicting emotions play across Ellen's face, but she puts on a happy face and leans down through his open window.
Have a nice trip.
Thanks, honey. Call you when I land.
I love you so much.
Something in her voice makes Bob hesitate. He looks back at her, curious.
I love you too.
He gives her a kiss, then backs out on the driveway and with a wave drives off. Exterior above the clouds, day. The sleek, sleuthing manta jet slices the sky. Interior manta jet, bobbier and meaner in his supersuit, dips a fresh prawn into some cocktail sauce and gazes around the luxurious cabin. He's happy as a clam.
This is your automated captain speaking. Would you care for mimosa?
Mind if I do? Thanks.
His glass disappears into his armrest, instantly replaced by a full glass of mimosa.
You're welcome. Currently 78 degrees in Nomanison. Please fasten your seatbelts. We're beginning our descent.
Over the island, as the jet begins its descent toward the island, we begin to see its spectacular aspects: active volcano, towering snow-capped peaks, tumbling waterfalls, futuristic monorail, etc. A paradise on Earth. Suddenly, the engine cuts off and the jet plunges nose down into the sea, converting into a submersible. Beneath the water's surface, the jet sub cruises through a fantastic seascape of exotic, otherworldly rock formations toward the base of the island, through vast curtains of bubbles created from a field of cooling lava. A massive door opens, revealing a huge underwater docking bay. The ship enters, the entrance closing behind them. Inside the docking bay, the water drains, the jet sub settles to a landing. A giant docking tube extends from a sidewall and connects to the side of the jet sub. Interior, jet sub. Bob turns on a doorbell, revealing a small slide chamber and a pair of shapely legs. Mirage leans into view.
Welcome back, Mr. Incredible. Nice suit. You've lost some weight.
Not my appetite. It's good to be back, Mirage.
Bob enters the monopod. The door is shut and it takes off. Exterior, no Manson jungle. Traveling with the pod. The monopod zooms along a track which rises from a tunnel beneath the lagoon and sweeps through the jungle along this. It is his second time here. Bob is seeing the island with new eyes. It is wonder. The monopod track disappears straight into a rushing waterfall. Suddenly the waterfall parts, the waterfall separating like an enormous long shifting curtain, revealing the intricately designed architecture hidden underneath. With the pod as it enters vertical tube and zooms upward into the dark. Interior, guest quarters, moments later. Elevator doors slide open crisply. Bob enters and takes in the room. It is small and open and tasteful, with a balcony overlooking a breathtaking view of the jungle and the ocean beyond.
You will be briefed about your next assignment in conference room at 2. Room A113.
2 o'clock. Thanks.
See you there.
Mirage leaves. Bob enters, throwing his case on the bed. He grabs a pear from a bowl of fresh fruit and takes a bite. He steps out on his balcony and leans against the railing. He could get used to paradise. Interior, Parr home, basement, hallway, day. Helen vacuums. She noticed some debris outside Bob's den and vacuums it. The vacuum bumps the door and it swings open. Helen stares at the floor, pushes the vacuum forward in a probe of Bob's den carpet. The sound of filthy debris rattles up the vacuum tube. Helen sighs. She's got to vacuum the entire room. Interior, Bob's den continues. As she begins to vacuum the den's floor, she notices that the door of his Mr. Incredible suit display case is ajar. She pushes it closed and suddenly stops, looking closer at it. Bob's older supersuit, and sees a new rip, expertly and recognizably mended.
Edna.
Interior, Parr's kitchen day.
Hello, I'd like to speak to Edna.
This is Edna.
E, this is Helen.
Helen who?
Helen Parr, or, Elastigirl.
Darling, how are you? How divine to hear from you.
Yeah, it's been a while. Listen, there's only one person Bob would trust to patch his supersuit, and that's you, E.
Yes, marvelous, isn't it? How much better than those horrible pajamas he used to wear. They're all finished. When are you coming to see? Don't make me beg, darling. I won't do it, you know.
Beg, no, I'm calling about a suit. Bob's suit. I'm calling about Bob's suit.
You come in an hour, darling. I insist, okay? Okay, bye.
Interior, Nomanson base. Conference room, A113. Bob opens the door. No one is there. He checks the wall clock. 2 o'clock. He decides to enter and takes a seat at the meeting table. There are some strange low sounds. Then the far wall slides open, revealing the outdoors and a bigger, badder Omidroid. Bob turns to run, but the armored droid is fast. It grabs him and flings him into the outside air. Exterior base jungle clearing continuous. Bob sails to the edge of the jungle, landing with a thud before he can react, and the robot has him again and slams him into the ground. A voice comes over a loudspeaker.
It's bigger! It's better!
The robot seizes Bob in one giant claw, turning two others into a whirling blades. They close in on Bob's neck. When a young, chunky, wild-haired man in a bright supersuit descends from the sky on jet boots, landing on top of the enormous robot.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is just too much for Mr. Incredible! Whoa, hey! It's finally ready.
The wild-haired man pokes a few buttons on one of his wristbands. The robot blades stop. The bot stands down.
I went through quite a few supers to get it worthy to fight you, but man, it wasn't good enough. After you trashed the last one, I had to make some major modifications. Sure, it was difficult, but you are worth it. After all, I am your biggest fan.
A dark realization falls over Bob's face.
Muted.
Buddy?
My name is not Buddy!
He presses a button as one of the thick platinum bands around his wrist. The Omeroid flings Bob again.
And it's not Incrediboy either. That ship has sailed. All I wanted was to help you. I only wanted to help. And what did you say to me?
Flashback, Mr. Incredible and Buddy, 15 years earlier. A shot from a prologue, softened by memory. A young Mr. Incredible turns away from the Buddy/Incrediboy.
Go home, buddy. I work alone.
Flashback, Buddy in his bedroom, still in his Incrediboy costume, but without the mask. Buddy glowers at his bedroom wall, a shrine to Mr. Incredible. He tears a poster off the wall.
It tore me apart, but you taught me an important lesson. You can't count on anyone.
Resume the present, Bob and Buddy.
Especially your heroes.
I was wrong to treat you that way. I'm sorry.
Oh, see? Now you respect me because I'm a threat. That's the way it works. Turns out there are a lot of people, whole countries who want respect, and they will pay through the nose to get it. How do you think I got rich? I invented weapons. Now I have a weapon that only I can defeat. And when I unleash it, it'll get...
Bob suddenly flings the log at Buddy. He ducks at it and presses a button on one of his wristbands. A beam erupts from his index finger and hits Bob in his chest, freezing his mid-action. Buddy chuckles with admiration.
You sly dog! You caught me monologuing!
Buddy jerks his beam arm to his right, effortlessly hurtling Bob into a tree with tremendous force.
Cool, huh? 0 point energy. I saved the best inventions for myself.
Buddy immediately catches Bob in the immobile ray again, freezing him in space.
Look at that. Am I good enough now? Who's super now? I'm Syndrome, your nemesis, and...
Syndrome realizes he's lost Buddy, inadvertently flinging him over the trees.
Brilliant.
Jungle cliffs. Bob's body arcs over the treetops, dropping into a deep river that flows into a waterfall. He pulls himself onto a rock. Syndrome becomes visible over the distant trees. He spies Bob and rockets toward him. Bob takes a running leap off the rock over the falls and disappears into the mist below. Underwater at the base of the falls, Bob hits the water in an explosion of bubbles. At the top of the fall, Syndrome lands on the rock, pulls in a tiny electronic device from his wristband. He hits the primer, the device begins to beep.
Try this on for size, big boy.
He drops the device over the falls. Under the water, the base of the falls. Bob's eyes widen when he sees the device enter the water. He turns and swims as fast as he can for the nearest protection. A hole in the rock. The device explodes. Underwater tunnel, blowing Bob through the hole so fast that interior cave. He is blown into the inside of a cave. Bob coughs up some water, tries to catch his breath. He looks up to see a skeletal face. He jumps back in surprise. It is the remains of a man. His only clothes that ragged remnants of shoulder pads, boots, and an odd-looking helmet. Bob crawls over over to rub some dirt from the emblem over the eyes. The emblem reads GB.
Taser beam.
The skeleton is still sitting up, and Bob is compelled to follow its gaze via Jensen cave wall. There presumably is dying moments. Gaza beam has burned a word into the rock. Kronos.
Kronos.
Just then, Bob hears a sound near the blowhole of the cave. A tiny flying probe raises from the hole. A scanner detects a body in the cave, and the probe flies toward it. It pauses in front of the skeleton and scans it, then retreats, exiting. Bob slowly rises from the wall, and the skeleton remains and watches it go. Jungle, top the falls. Syndrome probe emerges from the mist of the falls and returns to Syndrome. It beeps, and it docks with his wristband.
Life reading negative. Mr. Incredible terminated.
Syndrome bows his head in respect for his former idol. Inside E's house, E leads Helen downstairs towards her hidden lab.
This project has completely confiscated my life, darling. Consumed me as only hero work can. My best work, I must admit. Simple, elegant, yet bold. You will die. I did Robert's suit, and it turned out so beautiful, I just had to continue.
E, it's great to see you, but I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes, words are useless. Gobble, 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 gobble. There's too much of it, darling. Too much. This is why I show you my work. This is why you are here.
She turns to the wall and rapidly executes an elaborate series of security measures, punches a 15-digit code with her left hand while pressing her right hand against a panel. It flashes as she exposes her eyes to a retinal scan, which causes a microphone to extend from the wall to her lips.
Edna, mode.
In a flash, a ceiling panel opens and out pops an enormous gun, which trains its sights on Ellen. He sees this, turns back to the microphone, adding Hesley.
And guest.
The gun retreats into the ceiling. The wall in front of them opens dramatically, revealing E's testing lab, a large, ultra-sophisticated work area dedicated to the design, fabrication, and testing of superhero suits. E crosses to a large, raised platform mounted to a track running parallel to glassed in the chamber and sits in one of the two chairs facing it. Between the chairs is a small table with a fresh pot of coffee and assorted cookies. E motions Helen to join her.
Come, sit. Cream and sugar?
Ellen shakes her head, feeling a little bewildered, and sits as E pours and hands her a cup of coffee.
I started with the baby.
Started?
Shh, darling.
Inside the chamber, a panel opens. A small, featureless baby mannequin in a tiny red suit, sporting the same ice insignia as Bob's, mounted to a post, emerges, tracking slowly from one end of the chamber to the other.
I cut it a little roomy for the free movement. The fabric is comfortable for sensitive skin.
The inside of the chamber erupts in flames. Helen jumps back as he continues talking.
And can also withstand a temperature of 1,000 degrees.
The flames are suddenly replaced by a barrage of machine gun fire as the suit is blasted by hundreds of bullets.
Completely bulletproof?
The gunfire stops.
And machine washable, darling. That's a new feature.
What in heaven's name do you think the baby will be doing?
Well, I'm sure I don't know, darling. Luck favors the prepared. I didn't know the baby's powers, so I covered the basics.
Jack doesn't have any powers.
No? Well, he'll look fabulous anyway.
As the baby's suit exits one end, the panel reopens on the other side. Another mannequin size swings into the smoky chamber, its arms and legs slowly churning in a running motion which gradually accelerates into a blur.
Your boy suit I designed to withstand enormous friction without heating up or wearing out. A useful feature.
The dash suit departs into the wall as the new suit enters.
Your daughter's suit was tricky, but I finally created a sturdy material that will disappear completely as she does.
Helen's suit moves into view. Robot arms enter from above and below, clap to the sleeves of arms and pants, and begin to pull them wide apart in various contortions.
Your suit can stretch as far as you can without injuring yourself and still retain its shape.
Two small bombs appear on either side of the suit and explode, bending the...
Virtually indestructible, yet it breathes like Egyptian cotton. As an extra feature, each suit contains a homing device, giving you the precise global location of the wearer at the touch of a button.
The chamber goes dark. The light returns to their less dramatic setting. E swivels to face Helen, a cocky smile playing at the corners of her mouth.
Well, darling, what do you think?
What do I think? Bob is retired. I'm retired. Our family is underground. You helped my husband resume secret hero work behind my back?
I assumed you knew, darling. Why would he keep secrets from you?
He wouldn't. He doesn't.
This is a heavy pause. E considers her.
Men at Robert's age are often unstable, prone to weakness.
What are you saying?
Do you know where he is?
Of course.
Do you know where he is?
Sea cliffs, no man's in dusk. Bob hiding in a brush at the top of a cliff along the water line far below a monopod strikes toward him along a track which curves around the coastline. Bob crouches and dives. We fall with him swiveling through the air until he hit a palm tree. Continue. The palm bends along the drop, experimentally drops into another palm directly below it. Bob leaps onto the roof on the pod, quickly dispatching the guards inside, tossing them into the ocean. Bob seats himself and the controls as the pod races toward Syndrome base and the security checkpoint. Checkpoint. Two guards look up as the hair monopod approach a speaking car wheel carriage arrives at the gate, its cab completely torn off and missing. Suddenly alert, as the guards cock their guns and aim to the dark, we hear a distant grunt. A moment later, the cab falls from the sky, crashing on the top of the guards. Bob runs through the wrecked gate toward the base. Exit base. Bob pulls up behind the trees. There are several guards, two at the vehicle entrance, another at the balcony above. Bob thinks a bit, looks down and finds Coconut. With expert precision, he throws at the balcony guard, bending him. He falls off the balcony and hits the ground. The other guards rush to help him. Leaving their post, Bob runs up the vehicle entrance. It's locked tight. Bob sees shadows of guards approaching. He's out in the open and about to be caught when the door suddenly sweeps open and open, taking Bob with it. An ambulance moves out of the open bay, and as the door moves closed behind it, we see Bob drop into the garage. Elevator. Bob emerges in the dining hall and stares at the lava fall. He knows that this is a secret passage behind him. Picks up a large stone structure, ready to stuck into the lava. One tooth, but is startled by a flash of light in the fall. The passage is open. He loses his balance, struggling to set a massive sculpture back to his place before Mirage enters. Bob rushes into the closing passage, jumps clear just as the passage closes. Continued, a series of parallel floor lights click on. Bob follows them to an elaborate chair in the center of the dark. It is from above. Bob sits down in the chair. A giant curved screen lights up in front of him, with a blinkering cursor in its center. Bob types in Chronos. The computer screen refreshes. Bob is in. Resume E lab. Ellen's on the phone. E listens intently in the BG.
Hello, this is Helen Parr. Bob Parr is my husband. I was wondering if you could give me the number of the hotel he's staying at. The number I have is no good.
Mr. Parr no longer works at InsureCare.
What do you mean? He's on a business trip, a company retreat.
My records say he was terminated almost 2 months ago.
Ellen hangs up in a daze.
So you don't know where he is?
Ellen shakes her head. E holds up the homing device.
Would you like to find out?
Intercut. Bob enters the computer record of the development of the Omnidroid. It squares off superheroes one half of the screen with a progressively more advanced versions of the Omnidroid. A terminated band blots out the loser of each encounter. Bob's eyes fill with horror. Syndrome has been using superheroes to beta test his Omnidroid killing machines, starting with the weaker superheroes and working his way up as the robots become more deadly. Face after face of deceased superheroes flash by. Gentleman, Gamma Jack, Everseer. Bob turns away, staggered. He types in the name Elastigirl under whereabouts. The computer says unknown. Bob heaves a sigh of relief. Interior E's lab, same moment. Helen reluctantly takes the homing locator from E and stares at it. Not sure if she wants to know what it may tell her. Not sure to say what it may tell her. Syndrome's master computer with Bob. Bob is now looking at Syndrome's master plan, which seems to indicate unleashing the Omnidroid on a major city. A countdown has already started, and it's happening within 24 hours. Bob raises from the console and starts for the exit. Interior E's lab, same moment. Ellen presses the locator button on the homing tracker on the view screen. The locator isolates a remote island with Bob. As the dot with the over I in his chest logo lights up, beeping, Bob looks down in surprise. An alarm sounds as the room is awash in bright light. Unwittingly, Helen has exposed him. Bob races for the exit, but he is hit by sticky balls of goo fired from guns, lining the walls which inflate quickly, making it impossible to run. Bob falls to the floor, swallowed up by the expanding goo. Bob's POV. The expanding goo balls fill up the POV, but not before Bob makes up the recognizable figure approaching him. Mirage. E's kitchen. Several minutes later, coffee has been made and partially consumed. The morning paper still rolled up, rests on the table. Helen eyes, reddened from crying, blows her nose into a wide length of toilet paper handed her by admittedly disgusted E.
I'm such an idiot. I let this happen. You know, the new sports car, the getting in shape, the blonde hair, the lies.
Yes, he attempted to relive the past.
And now I'm losing him. What'll I do? What am I gonna do?
What are you talking about?
E suddenly leaps under the table. She whacks Helen with the rolled up newspaper.
You are Elastigirl! My God, pull yourself together! What will you do? Is this a question? You will show him you remember that he is Mr. Incredible, and you will remind him that who you are. Well, you know where he is. Go! Confront the problem! Fight! Win! And call me when you get back, darling. I enjoy our visits.
Inside Powerhouse hallway later. Readying to leave, Helen talks to Violet as they walk toward Helen's bedroom.
There's lots of leftovers you can reheat. Make sure Dash does his homework, and both of you get to bed on time. I should be back tonight late. You can be in charge that long, can't you?
Yeah, but why am I in charge again?
Nothing. Just a little trouble with Daddy.
You mean Dad's in trouble? Or Dad is the trouble?
Ellen pauses outside her bedroom door.
I mean, either he's in trouble, or he's going to be.
Inside master bedroom, Mom enters, looks at her open travel bag, then the suits E made. She sighs, decides to pack her super suit, then sees Dash staring at the matching bright red outfits.
Hey, what's that? Where'd you get that, Mom?
Mom stretches to slam the door closed. Immediately dashes outside the sliding window, looking in.
Made a cool outfit? Hey, those for us? Do we get all your cool outfits?
Mom stretches to pull the blinds, briefly taking her hand off the doorknob. Dash zooms back through the door, nabs his outfit, and is gone. Helen calls after him.
Wait, Dash! You come back here this moment!
The phone rings. Helen, expecting it, quickly picks up.
Hey, Snug. Thanks for getting back. Listen, I know this is short notice.
Violet has entered. She stares at the suits on the bed.
What are these?
Dash zips back in, fully dressed in his suit.
Look, I'm the Dash. The Dash likes.
Helen tries to zip up her bag and return to Violet's suit to the closet. Violet is back through and sees this.
Just a moment. Take that off before somebody sees you.
But you're packing one just like it. Are you hiding something? Mom?
Please, honey, I'm on the phone. Dash!
Dash whisks the suit from Helen, offers it to Violet.
This is yours. It's specially made.
What's going on?
Ellen pushes both children out into the hall and slams her door. Violet looks at the suit, then at Dash.
What makes you think it's special?
I don't know. Why would Mom try to hide it?
Dash runs off. Violet looks at the suit, wondering, making her hand invisible. She touches the suit. It vanishes. She draws back, taking her finger off the suit. It reappears. Violet stares at the suit with wide eyes. Whoa. Inside master bedroom.
Snug, I'm calling in a solid you owe me.
Snug's office. Airport. Cluttered and comfortable. A blow in the bottle museum of flying Arcadia. Snug Porter, lean, leather, and laugh line, twirls a pencil as he takes the call.
About time. What's it been, 15 years? I was starting to get comfortable. What do you need?
A jet. What can you get that's fast?
Snug turns to his office window, which looks out onto the tarmac, and lifts a few Venetian blinds, revealing an amazing, sleek, and powerful-looking jet.
Let me think.
Above the clouds, day. The jet soars through the golden late afternoon sky. Inside the jet's cockpit, same time, Helen pilots the jet as she speaks into her headset.
Island approach. India Golf 9er checking in. BFR on top. Over.
No response. Helen checks the instruments, confirms her course. She tries again.
Island Tower. This is India Golf 9er requesting vectors. Vectors to the initial. Over. Huh.
An old sensation begins to creep into Helen's thoughts. Danger. She grabs her duffel bag and zips it open, exposing the supersuit he made for her. She stares at it.
Easy, Helen. You're overreacting. Everything's fine. They're just all getting coffee at the same time.
Helen mules the explanation and decides it's ridiculous. She flips a switch, putting the jet on autopilot, grabs her suit, and goes into the lavatory. No one's in. Jail cell, same time. Bob awakens and finds himself bound by huge metal restraints, facing a nasty-looking device that looks something like an electrified bed of nails. Syndrome approaches Bob.
You, sir, truly are Mr. Incredible. You know, I was right to idolize you. I always knew you were tough, but tricking the probe by hiding under bones of another super? Oh, man! I'm still geeking out about it. Then you had to go and just ruin the ride. I mean, Mr. Incredible calling for help? Lame. All right, who did you contact?
Bob stares at Syndrome.
Contact? What are you talking about?
Syndrome nods at a flunky who presses a button. The torture device jumps to life, embedding sparks as Bob winces in pain.
I'm referring to last night at 23:07 hours while you were snooping around. You sent out a homing signal.
I didn't know about the homing device.
Syndrome zaps Bob again. He spasms, grimacing.
And now a government plane is requesting permission to land here? Who did you contact?
I didn't send for a plane.
Play the transmission.
Island approach. India Golf 9er checking in. VFR on top.
Bob head snaps in attention. Syndrome sees it.
Helen.
So you do know these people. Well then, I'll send them a little greeting.
With a flourish and a miraculous grin, Syndrome presses the red launch button on a control console. Main cabin. Helen emerges from the lavatory dressed in her supersuit. She throws her duffel bag roughly at a passenger seat.
Ow!
Violet!
It's not my fault. Dash ran away, and I knew I'd get blamed for it, and...
Dash pops up from behind the seats at the back of the cabin, immediately engaging at the top of his lungs.
That's not true. You said something with Mom, and we have to find out what, and it was your idea. It was your idea. It was all 100% your idea all the time.
I thought he'd try to sneak on the plane, so I came here, and he closed the doors before I could find him, and then you took off. It's not my fault.
Wait a minute. You left Jack alone?
Yes, Mom.
No, that's one, Mom.
Completely stupid. Of course we got a sitter. Do you think I'm totally irresponsible? Thanks a lot.
Well, who'd you get?
Interior Parr home day. Supporting a ponytail, Peggy baseball shirt, and I don't really see a word there, of Arthur Dorsian Kari measuring 13 stands in the middle of the Parr living room, chatting in the phone as Jack plays happily in the background.
You don't have anything to worry about, Mrs. Parr. I've got this babysitting thing wired. I've taken courses, learned CPR. I got excellent marks and certifications I can produce on demand.
Intercut, Helen on the jet.
Kari,
I also brought Mozart to play while the baby sleeps because leading experts say Mozart makes babies smarter.
Kari.
And the beauty part is the babies don't even have to listen because they're asleep. I wish my parents had played Mozart when I slept because half the time I don't know what people are talking about.
Kari, I really don't feel comfortable with this. I'll pay you for your trouble, but I'd really rather call a service.
That's really no need, Mrs. Parr. I can handle anything this baby can dish out. Can't I, you playboy?
Resume jet, main cabin, same time.
Kari, I appreciate your qualifications and your enthusiasm, but...
A warning signal sounds from the cockpit. Helen turns, recognizing it instantly. Cockpit. Helen enters through the windshield. A rocket flare is suddenly visible above the clouds. Helen's eyes widen. Maid cabin. The fasten seatbelt sign above the dash and via lights up. They exchange glances, reach from their seatbelts. The jet suddenly dives, throwing them into the ceiling.
Friendly's at 20 miles southwest of your position. Angels 10. Track east. Disengage. Over. Disengage.
Roaring through the clouds as the jet banks suddenly, barely avoiding a missile that smokes past its metallic belly. Resume Sidrum Base, prison cell, same moment.
India Golf 909 transmitting. Is the blind guard...
No.
Resume Helen's jet, same moment. Through the windshield, we see the clouds suddenly part, revealing the ocean glooming toward us like an endless brick wall. Helen plants her feet and yanks back on the controls. Moving above the water's surface, the jet belly spanks the crest of the waves as it struggles to pull out of its dive. Resume cockpit. As the jet is buffed by the peaker of the ocean waves, its engine screaming as it finally descends, the jet goes vertical, throwing the kids backward down that aisle. Helen stabilizes the jet, then double takes as the missile reappears on her screen. She whirls to Violet.
Bye. I need you to throw a force field around the plane.
You said never to...
I know what I said. Listen to what I'm saying now.
I've never done one that big before.
Resume Syndrome Base, prison cell, same time.
It's not like I've been practicing.
Violet, do it now!
No! Call off the missiles. I'll do anything.
Too late. 15 years too late.
Resume jet. Violet afraid to make sure to start. She uncertainly starts to form a force field, but it's small and weak. Quick cuts. Helen whirls towards the cockpit. The jet's radar display shows the missile converging. The missile closes in on the jet. Helen shouts out into her headset, eyes widening in horror as the missile close in on the jet's belly, and Helen throws off her headset, leaps out of her seat and stretches, enveloping her kids in an instant before the jet explodes, becoming a rolling fireball as the missile cuts in half. Resume Syndrome Base, prison cell, same moment. Bob reacts in horror as the radar indicates a hit. Resume jet, explosion, falling through the sky. An orange-red ball emerges from the blast and slowly unfurls. It's Helen, who's out cold, and the kids, who are wide awake and screaming as they are free-falling toward the ocean. Helen comes to and sees her children plummeting to their deaths. She snatches her arms, pulling the kids in as she forms into a parachute to arrest their descent.
Brace yourselves!
The ocean splashdown. The kids break the water surface in shock, sputtering and splashing.
Mom, what are we going to do?
I'll tell you what we're not going to do. We're not going to panic, and we're not going... Look out!
Helen shoves the kids clear, diving. Underwater, as a chunk of fuselage hits with a thunderous splash, Helen watches it quickly disappear into the depths. Resume Bob Sal. We have confirmed target was destroyed.
You'll get over it. I seem to recall you prefer to work alone.
With sudden rage, Bob bursts free of his leg cuffs, driving his legs forward with tremendous force, and lunges for Syndrome. Mirage sees him and shoves Syndrome clear, gets snagged in Bob's arms. Bob is yanked back into the grid. His arms cuffed, pulled in opposite directions. Mirage now caught in the middle.
Release me, now.
Or what?
I'll crush her.
Ooh, sounds a little dark for you. Go ahead.
No.
It'll be easy, like breaking a toothpick.
Show me.
A contest of wills as the two stare each other down, but Bob doesn't have it in him. He lets her go. Mirage drops to the floor. Syndrome looks at Bob and sneers.
I knew you couldn't do it. Even when you have nothing to lose. You're weak, and I've outgrown you.
Syndrome exits, followed by the technician, and finally Mirage. The room is empty and silent, save for the soft sound of the suspension arcs holding Bob softly. Mr. Incredible begins to weep. Resume ocean. Dash and Violet tread water anxiously looking at Mom.
Oh my god,
We're dead! We're dead! We survived, but we're dead!
Stop it!
Helen splashes their faces, startling them silent.
We are not going to die. Now both of you will get a grip, or so help me, I'll ground you for a month. Understand?
The kids nod. Helen looks at the missile trails.
Those were short-range missiles, land-based. That way is our best bet.
You want to go towards the people that tried to kill us?
If it means land, yes.
You expect us to swim there?
I expect you to trust me.
Aerial shot, moving over the ocean. A boat gangs into the frame. Skimming over the water at a great speed, Violet appears to be the only passenger. Closer, we see the boat is actually Helen, who has contorted herself into a reasonable face smile of an inflammable raft, and Dash, facing backwards, his legs pounding the water ferociously, is the outboard motor. Violet sits impassively, her long hair streaming in the wind, and tries to find something interesting to look at. The incredible boat speeds away from us, heading toward the missile trails, origins, and the horizon. No Manson Beach, early evening. It is just after sunset when Ellen, Dash, and Violet stagger onto the beach. Hungry and exhausted, Helen collapses in an ungainly, slightly stretched out heap, spent. Her body slowly reverting into her usual shape, she looks at Dash with a tired smile.
What a trooper. I'm so proud of you.
Panting, Dash smiles and gives her a weak wave.
Thanks, Mom.
Inside cave, a little later, Helen and the kids huddle around a fire, silent and somber. Helen finally breaks the silence.
I think your father's in trouble.
If you haven't noticed, Mom, we're not doing so hot either.
I'm going to look for him. That means you're in charge until I get back, Violet.
What?
You heard her.
Helen reaches into the battered duffel and removes 3 masks. She puts one on, heads the other 2 to her kids.
Put these on. Your identity is your most valuable possession. Protect it. If anything goes wrong, use your powers.
But you said we should never.
I know what I said.
Helen regrets her outbursts at once. She takes a deep breath, composes herself, looks at her kids.
Remember the bad guys on those shows you used to watch on Saturday morning? Well, these guys are not like those guys. They won't exercise restraint because you're children. They will kill you if they get the chance. Do not give them that chance, Vi. I'm counting on you.
Mom,
I'm counting on you. Be strong. Dash, if anything goes wrong, I want you to run as fast as you can.
As fast as I can?
As fast as you can. Stay hidden, keep each other safe. I'll be back by morning.
Helen gives them a long hug, then turns to exit the cave. Violet, looking tortured, runs after her, stops her at the entrance. Tears well up in Violet's eyes.
Mom, what happened on the plane when you asked me to... I wanted to... I'm sorry.
Helen places a finger over V's lips, meets her gaze, and speaks in a warm, sure tone.
Shh. It isn't your fault. It wasn't fair for me to suddenly ask so much of you. But things are different now, and doubt is a luxury we can't afford anymore, sweetie. You have more power than you realize. Don't think and don't worry. If the time comes, you'll know what to do. It's in your blood.
Helen gives Violet a firm nod and disappears into the night. Violet watches her mother and gets walled by the darkness. She looks down at the mask in her hands and carefully puts it on. Launch Observation Center, Syndrome's base night. Lost in thought, Syndrome stares down at the massive rocket in the center of the volcano, poised to launch.
He's not weak, you know.
Mirage is seated at one of the many consoles, taking notes, her back to him. Syndrome snaps out of his dream and turns to Mirage, the only other person in the room.
What?
Valuing life is not weakness.
Syndrome crosses to her, casually dismissive.
Hey, you're talking about what happened in the containment unit. I had everything under control.
And disregarding it is not strength.
Syndrome slides up behind her, lifts her chin with a gentle hand, and draws her face towards his.
I called his bluff, sweetheart. That's all. I knew he wouldn't have it in him, so actually...
Mirage shoves his hand aside and raises to confront him.
Next time you gamble, bet your own life.
She exits, leaving Syndrome befuddled and alone. Exterior jungle night. Helen enters a clearing and looks up. A monorail truck soars high above the jungle floor. A monopod is coming. Helen throws her hands high, stretching them up to the pod, passing overhead. It yanks her off screen. Moving through the trees, Helen hangs suspended beneath the white pod on long arms, alternating hands to swing around the support columns. Gaining momentum with each swing, she throws her body above the roof of the car, landing expertly on top. On the top of the pod, Helen squeezes into the rushing wind, sees the track slicing through the dense jungle canopy and leading directly into the base of the towering volcano. A familiar hum causes her to hide, and she flips down one side of the pod, one of view, as two hover jets buzz by Helen. Helen watches the jets descend to a landing strip inside the volcano, just as the pod plunges into a tunnel and, inside the tunnel, moving with Helen on the pod. Darkness suddenly, and open in the tunnel, rushes by, and Helen catches on a glimpse of the rocket. And whoosh, the pod is back into the tunnel. Helen stretches her torso out like a sail. It catches wind, and she releases from the pod, reforms, and drops to the track with a cat-like grace. Inside the base tunnel entrance, Helen peeks out of the tunnel, looks out at the heavily guarded launch pad.
A rocket?
Visible inside the open tip of the rocket sits up a huge metallic wing with enormous circular hole empty in its center, waiting to be filled with what? Another corridor. Later, two armed guards march past camera, unseen above them. Helen is stretched thin, hiding between a cluster of the pipes which run down the center of the corridor. She watches as the guards exit through a sliding door. She drops like a liquid cat to the floor and begins to move down the corridor. As Helen passes a metal door, she catches sight of her reflection in its shiny surface. She stops, frowns. It's been a while since her last supersuit, but is a bit bigger than she remembered. She wonders if she should lose a few when the swoosh of the door surprises her. A guard comes through the door to the far end of the hall. As he enters Junction, we see that Helen has contorted herself, arching perfectly around the door frame. The guard doesn't see her. He slides a card key through a reader, enter a restricted corridor. The doors whoosh open. Directly behind him, Helen suddenly reforms and begins to the back through the doorway when the doors behind her slide shut. Trapping Helen's legs, she winces, tries in vain to pull it free. It's stuck, leaving one hope. The card key on guard 1. Belt. Stretching across the corridor, Helen clambers after the guard on the palms of her hands, following him into the inner chamber. The guard stops at the elevator and presses the call button. He's back to Ellen. Just behind him, stretched far and held upright on one hand, Ellen reaches with the other for the card key. She almost has it. At the corridor, the door suddenly closes on her stretched torso. Her upper third snaps back and her middle third trapped, and now stretched across. Hallway, center core. 2 more guards, 2 and 3, are traveling in a transport. They are currently clotheslined by Helen's stretched torso. Inner chamber, knocking the wind out of Helen directly in front of her. As the far end of the hall, the elevator opens for guard 1, revealing guard 4 inside. He sees Helen. Helen's arms stretched forward. Interior chamber, inside elevators. In a blink, her fist clocks guard 4, disarms 1, hitting with the butt of his gun. As guard 4 drops to the floor, 1 hits the close button on the panel. The doors close on Helen's arms. Guard 1 grins. Helen hand feels around, finds guard 1 his chest, chin, face, and punches his lights out. He drops. Resume middle corridor. The torso guards 2 and 3 get to their feet and see Helen. Her arm and still stretched through the glass door. They lift their guns at her at the same moment. Blue corridor. Another guard, 5, comes up on Helen's leg in the closed doors. The sight is so odd he can only stare. He decides to poke with the leg with the barrel of his machine gun. With Helen, as he reacts to the poke, she scowls. Resume blue corridor. Her leg cocks back and fishtail kicks guard 5. He flies backwards, his weapon discharging into the card scanner. The doors open, freeing Helen's legs, which snail across the corridor and smash to the torso. Guards 2 and 3 against the middle door. They slide into a heap, out cold. Inside elevator. Helen's arm finds one of the guards. Guard key slides into the door scanner. The door is open, releasing her torso. Access corridor. Helen drags the last of the unconscious guards over to an open wall panel and stuffs him inside with others. She throws her weight against the panel, finally gaining it shut. Close on force field. Glowing purple in a fluttering around campfire, it struggles to take form and finally does, trapping the fire's smoke inside. Inside the cave, night. Dash watches as Violent practices intently. She releases the force field sphere. The dark smoke ball rises upwards. V throws another force field, recapturing the smoke at the roof of the cave. Dash gets to his feet, grabs his burning branch from the fire to use a torch.
Well, none of this isn't fun, but I'm gonna go look around.
What do you think is going on here? You think we're on vacation or something? Mom and Dad's lives could be in jeopardy. Or worse, their marriage.
Their marriage? So the bad guys are trying to wreck Mom and Dad's marriage?
Forget it. You're so immature.
Okay, I'm gonna go look around.
Mom said to stay hidden.
I'm not gonna leave the cave. Sheesh.
Rocket Control Center, same moment. Ground control technicians watch from the observation window as a giant metal sphere, a massive version of the dreaded Omnitroid, is carefully guarded into place inside the top stage of the rocket. The rocket nose cone is lowered into the Omnitroid and is secured into place. The cylindrical blast shield closes around the rocket. Inside the cave, lightning his way with burning branch, Dash explores the depths of the cave. Suddenly on the floor becomes smooth. Dash looks down, then holds his torch up. He's inside an enormous man-made tunnel.
Cool.
His voice echoes with a bit. Dash brightens. He calls up again, louder this time.
Cool!
His voice echoes.
Cool.
Control room, same moment. Syndrome shoves a pass key into the control board, gives the key a twist, then presses the launch button. Launch tube. The rocket engines fire. The sound is deafening as the rocket's massive weight slowly lifts into the air. Inside the cave tunnel entrance, a low rumble and a subtle push of warm wind emanates from the depth of the tunnel, which begins to glow. Dash's smile drowns as he realizes it's an enormous fireball rocketing toward him. He turns and runs. With Violet, V is still practicing force fields when the depths of the cave begin to rumble and glow. She looks up.
Bye! 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 Bye!
What did you do?
Outside the cave, Dash and Violet race outside the cave, getting clear just as an enormous wall of flames erupts after them. They look down with a shudder at how close they came. A roar behind them causes them to turn. A rocket emerges from the center of the volcano and soars into the night sky. Control room detention block. Helen looks down for some vents in the ceiling. Silently, she stretches her neck until her head dangles down behind the guards. Her POV, Ellen scans the detention grid and notices a tremendous spike of power to restrain the prisoners inside cell 13.
Bob.
Helen quickly pulls her head back through the vent in the ceiling and exits. What?
I didn't say anything.
Above the Earth, the final stage of the Omnidroid's capsule separates. The Omni ship begins to descend below the cloud layer toward the city. Exit Nometian Jungle the next morning. Dash awakens, discovering to his horror that he's curled up with Violet. Puzzled, he jumps up and shudders.
Identification.
Startled, Dash turns toward the sound. A brightly colored bird perches in the nearby tree.
Identification, please.
Hey, Violet! Look, it talks!
What?
There, that one!
Violet walks up and stares, also beguiled by the bird.
Voice key incorrect.
Dash chortles. Violet, a smile starts to fade.
Voice key. Wait a second.
The bird head slowly swirls towards the kids with a soft computing sound. Its eyes light up as its beak drops open and it lets out a shrill of electronic alarms. Resume jungle. Dash and Violet. Violet backs away from the shrieking bird. Dash following after her, panicking.
What do we do?
Run!
Where are we going?
Away from here!
They turn and run. The shrieking bird takes wing, following them. Interior Syndrome's base, monitoring station. Alarms sound. A section of the island grid lights up, locating the kids. A guard hits the scramble button. Inside Syndrome base, same moment. Helen hears the alarm, watches as the guards scramble. Exterior base, moments later. Guards on Velociopods zoom out in the jungle. Interior containment unit. Bobs hangs defeated in the suspension beams. The cell door slides open. A figure is silhouetted there. Mirage. She switches off the suspension ray. Bob drops to the floor. Bob just sits there on his knees, his eyes cast downward. Mirage crosses to him, kneels down.
There isn't much time.
Bob's hand flashes out and claps around her throat. He raises, holding her dangling above aloft with one hand.
No, there isn't. In fact, there's no time at all. Why are you here? How can you possibly bring me lower? What more can you take away from me?
Family survived the crash. They're here. On the island.
Alive?
Bob releases his grip. Mirage drops to the floor, gasping regularly. Bob lifts her up and embraces her. Mirage drinks it in, then reacts to the sigh of a figure in the doorway. Bob looks up.
Helen.
Mirage and Bob push apart. Mirage composing herself.
Whoa, you must be Mrs. Incret.
Helen's fist flies across the room and cracks across the Mirage's jaw. Mirage spins and crashes to the ground. Bob seizes Helen's stretched wrist.
She was helping me to escape.
No, that's what I was doing.
Bob pulls to her. She resists, pushing him away with her stretchy limbs like a cat being forced into a bath ash.
Let go of me. Let go, you lousy, lying, unfaithful creep.
Bob smothers her protest with a big kiss.
How could I betray the perfect woman?
Oh, you're referring to me now?
Where are the kids?
Mirage sits up, holding her jaw.
They might have triggered the alert. Security's been sent to the jungle. You better get going.
What, now our kids are in danger?
Bob and Helen turn to exit, bickering as they do.
If you suspected danger, why did you bring him?
I didn't bring them. They stowed away, and I don't think you're striking the proper tone here.
Jungle with Dash and V, same moment. Running blindly, the kids are suddenly confronted by guards on 3-man velociopods. Glancing at the guards, Violet speaks quietly to Dash.
Dash, remember what Mom said.
What? Stop talking. Oh, abruptly V vanishes. Dash looks around in surprise.
Dash, run!
Suddenly, understanding, Dash bolts, jumping from the transport and vanishing into the jungle. It happens fast. The guard's head snaps toward the sound of V's voice. He swings his rifle. We hear a heavy thud as Violet's invisible body is knocked from the transport. A cloud of dust surrounds an impression in the dirt.
They're supers.
Get the boy. 3 guards take off after Dash on the velociopods. Show yourself. Racing through jungle. Dash blasts through the foliage on foot. Unbelievably fast, a manned velociopod hot on his tail, but the terrain is dense, uneven, and difficult, and Dash is forced to adhere to the thin trail winding through the growth. Up ahead, a swarm of flies fuses in the air. Suddenly, Dash bursts into view, rocketing right through and swarm. Bugs splatter Dash's face like an interstate windshield. Dash stumbles and careens and over through the underground like an Indy 500 car crash and finally tumbles to a stop, unharmed but thoroughly repulsed. Dash winds up his bug-spattered face and teeth. A velociopod bursts out of the brush after him, and he takes off, tearing through the jungle. Running fast, Dash gumbles a long vine, which sends him out in the wide arc that surprises his trailing. He shoots past and moors off into the underground. Dash releases the vine, tumbling roughly through to his feet, and runs. A velociopod bursts out of the brush and is on top of him. Impossible, Dash accelerates, staying just ahead of it. He sees another vine, grabs it, and is propelled upwards. Above the trees, Dash explodes out of the canopy, falling out of the control. He looks down and sees the treetops suddenly drop away. Dash is falling off a cliff, screaming, his 10-year-old lungs out as he lands on a velociopod. Fleetingly astonished by his good luck, Dash looks up at the startled guard, whirls around the face. The guard swirls. Dash ducks and reluctantly throws a punch at the guard's face. It lands. Thrilled at his raw speed, it renders the guard powerless to dodge or return his punches. Dash laughs and, growing more confident with each punch, socks the guard again and again, blissfully unaware that no one is driving. Dash looking up. His jaw drops. A rock wall looms ahead. Dash points at it. The guard sees an opening and socks Dash in the face, knocking him just as the velociopod slams in the cliff, vaporizing him into a fireball. Dash falls, making desperate flaying grabs as he hit the limb after limb, an enormous tree finally getting hold of a branch and arresting the tree. He pants, his heart racing, and looks down, his feet dangling above the yard off the jungle floor. Elated in his survival, Dash drops to the ground and lets out a whoop, immediately altering. 2 guards on velociopods nearby his presence. They turn the V-paws after him. With Dash, as he bolts again, accelerating his breakneck speed, he smashes through an endless suppression of foliage, nearly colliding with a tree trunk and rocks, and suddenly a lagoon lies in front of him. Dash reacts and the V-pods are on his tail, but is nowhere to go. He takes a deep breath and steps into it. As enough velocity runs across the water, amazed and accelerated, Dash blasts across the water surface, weaving like a speedboat around the large volcanic rocks jutting out of the water. Velociopods open fire, strafing the water as Dash is pursued into a cave. Velociopod 2 pulls up short at the cave entrance and chooses to go around. Inside the cave, Dash runs, Velociopod on his heels, weaves around the rocks, manages to put some distance between himself and Velociopod when he sees V-Pod 2 coming straight at him. Dash wheels around his pod legs, careening toward the water like an egg beater. He sees a V-Pod 1 closing fast. He has nowhere to go, and like a deer in the headlights, Dash stops, suddenly dropping beneath the water surface as the Velociopod collides. Boom, boom. Somewhere in the jungle, moving the same moment, Bob and Helen turn, not tired but breathing hard. Breathing hard.
We're on page 101.
Page 101.
I think it's 99.
Yeah, I was seeing 99.
It's script
okay.
page 99, but
Oh,
PDF
okay, on the-
101.
Oh yeah, on the.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was on 101. Okay. I admit it, but I didn't want you to worry.
You didn't want me to worry, and now we're running for our lives through some godforsaken jungle?
I'm trying to pick a fight, but I'm still just happy you're alive.
Another part of the jungle. Violet and the guard. The remaining guard waits, his machine gun at the ready. Suddenly, the dirt moves. The guard fires, staffing the ground just behind a succession of footprints that streak toward the river moment. Before they splash appears the river. Under the water surface, we see violet-shaped distortion. A bullet trails ferociously sliced through the surrounding water with the guard. Still firing, he stops, unnerved and unadrenalized, tensed and ready. He nervously scans the river. I know you're there, little miss Disappear. You can't hide from me. Training his gun he last saw Violet. The guard grabs a handful of dirt from the riverbank and throws it into the water. He shoulders his rifle, watching the dirt turn into a brown cloud and as it travels downstream, making visible as violet-shaped rock. There you are. The guard takes aim. Dash blurs past.
Hey!
Knocking the guard's gun barrel skyward as it fires, the guard swings around, strafing around Dash's heels as it plummets back to the jungle. As a splash explodes from the river as an invisible Violet makes a break from it. The guard sees this and swings the gun toward her. Dash blasts out of the jungle and knocks down the guard's legs out from under him. They tumble and scrap, Dash redeeming his lack of size with lightning fast punches and feints.
Stay away from my sister.
Disoriented, the guard swings, connects, knocking off his feet. He tumbles back. The guard shoulders his rifle, lavering it at Dash. Dash looks up, sees he's screwed. The guard gangs wingly and pulls the trigger. Violet suddenly appears in midair, driving in front of the Dash as he throws down a force field around them. A hail of bullets ricochet off the force field. Inside the force field, Dash looks up, sees Violet suspended in midair in the center of the electronic sphere.
How are you doing that?
I don't know.
Whatever you do, don't stop.
Wider as Dash stares to walk within the force field like a gerbil on a wheel, Violet spins over faster in the sphere, hobbing as Dash accelerates into the run. The guards empty their climbs as the rolling sphere with no effect. It rumbles past them and straight into the jungle. Moving with the rolling force field, as it carries Dash and V down a steep hillside into the path of two speeding velocipeds who fire at the sphere. It's climbed by one velocipede, which then spirals into a rock and explodes. A jungle clearing not far away, same moment. Bob and Helen hear the explosion echo. Stop worried, that's when they hear the rumble. Before they can get clear, the rolling force field bursts out of the brush inside the sphere. The children react as their surprised parents flatten against the force field like dough against a rolling pin, revolving in and out of view.
Mom? Dad?
Dad!
Resume wide view. Violet vanishes the force field, and the entire family tumbles to the jungle floor.
Kids!
This is a fantastic, joyful exchange of hugs, kisses, unfortunately cut short when velociraptors explode out of foliage, the Incredibles instantly jump to their feet. Helen throws stretched scissors kick, which catches a guard in the chest, knocking him out of the V-pod. Bob chops a second passing velociraptor. It plows straight into the soft jungle floor before its pilot can react. Helen's arm is coiled around him. She yanks him from the vehicle, whiplashing him around another guard, knocking them both out cold. Bob grabs and crashes V-pod and frisbees it into a V-pod from the trees. Boom! And it's over, and Helen had forgotten how good they were. They exchanged lustful glances.
I love you.
Suddenly, a jungle is filled with guards, velociraptors, and just as quickly as the Incredibles turn, as one against them, a hurricane of superpowers suddenly brought to a crashing halt. An emboil ray strikes the Incredibles, suspending them all motionless in midair.
Whoa, hey! Time out!
Syndrome keeps his wrists crossed on a beam trained on the suspended couple, the other on the suspended kids.
What do we have here? Matching uniforms?
He glances between the four fences. His eyes narrow as he zeroes in on Helen, and astonishing smile spills up his face.
Oh no, Elastigirl? You married Elastigirl? Oh god, bizay! It's a whole family of supers. Looks like I've hit the jackpot. Oh, this is not too good.
On a giant screen network news footage of a crowd gathered around a smoldering Hulk resisting at the base of a large building. The TV channel changes. Another reporter is covering the same story. Camera widens. Syndrome is delightfully channel surfing with a remote control out of his own invention. We are in the prison chamber, Syndrome's base day. The Incredibles, Bob, Helen, Violet, and Dash are all imprisoned side by side in the suspension beam.
Huh? Oh, come on. You've got to admit this is cool. Just like a movie. The robot will emerge dramatically, do some damage, throngs of screaming people, and just when all hope is lost, Syndrome will save the day. I'll be a bigger hero than you ever were.
You mean you killed off real heroes so that you could pretend to be one?
Oh, I'm real enough to defeat you. And I did it without your precious gifts or your oh-so-special powers. I'll give them heroics. I'll give them the most spectacular heroics anyone's ever seen. And when I'm old and I've had my fun, I'll sell my inventions so everyone can be superheroes. Everyone can be super. And when everyone's super, no one will be.
Syndrome exits crackling. Resume containment unit. The Incredibles hang in a midair defeated as the live newscast covers the terrifying Omnidroid attack.
Sorry.
The others look up in a dull surprise at Bob's confession.
This is my fault. Been a lousy father. Blind to what I have.
Behind Bob, Violet begins to rock back and forth, revealing that she is suspended not in Syndrome's ray, but in the center of her own force field.
So obsessed with being undervalued that I undervalued all of you.
Dad?
Don't interrupt.
So caught up in the past that you are my greatest adventure. And I almost missed it.
Violet has gathered enough momentum to roll her sphere out of the suspension beam and over to the control panel.
I swear, I'm going to get us out of this if...
Well, I think Dad has made some excellent progress today, but it's time to wind down now.
Violet throws a switch, releasing the Incredibles from the beam. They drop to the floor, launching bay, no man's in day. The Incredibles race through an empty corridor.
We need to get back to the mainland.
I saw an aircraft carrier on my way in. Straight ahead, I think.
Bob's hands pray open the heavy metal doors, crunching them like foil. The Incredibles enter the huge hangar unmolested.
Where are the guards? Go!
Laughter drifts of a larger Winnebago crowned with transmission arrays parked near the launch pad. Inside the Winnebago, the guards watch live coverage of the Omnidroid attack on a video monitor. Champagne is popped. The cork is unexpectedly caught by someone standing in the doorway. Mr. Incredible. The guards fall silent. Outside the mobile unit, the vehicle rocks as Bob quickly punches the guards within. In moments, Bob merges whistles to his family that the coast is clear.
This is the hangar, but I don't see any jets.
Jet's not fast enough.
What's faster than a jet?
How about a rocket?
The other Incredibles follow Dash's finger to an enormous shield-shaped rocket, identical to the one launched earlier, save for a perfect circular hole in the center.
Great. I can't fly a rocket.
You don't have to. Use the coordinates from the last launch.
Bob and Helen beam their daughter's cleverness, then Bob smiles, fads.
Oh, I'll bet Syndrome's changed the password by now. How do I get into the computer?
A voice comes over the loudspeaker.
Hey, please.
The Incredibles turn and look at Mirage stands in the monitoring station above the launch pad, smiling. Interior, high-rise apartment, Muschenberg, same moment. The stereo plays soft jazz as Lucius Best, a.k.a. Frozone, dresses for dinner. He slaps some aftershave on his face, checking his look in the mirror. A low series of booms grounds louder, causing him to look up to see. The Omnia droid lumbering past the soaring windows of his fifth-floor apartment, a military chopper, strapping with a machine gun, fires immediately, goes through his dresser drawers.
Honey,
What?
where's my super suit?
What?
Where is my super suit?
I put it away.
The military chopper, now on fire, spirals past the picture window and explodes, lighting up the room.
Where?
Why do you need to know?
I need it!
Frozone is running down the hallway, going in and out of view, frantically searching rooms and closets.
Uh-huh, you better not be thinking about doing no daring do. We've been planning this evening for 2 months.
Public is in danger!
My evening is in danger.
Tell me what my suit is, woman! We're talking about the greater good!
Greater good, I am your wife. I am the greatest good you are ever gonna get.
Exterior city streets. Moments later, the driver of a gasoline tanker screeches to a halt, his eyes budging out at the rampaging robot.
Run!
He jumps to the truck just as the robot seizes the tanker in a giant claw and flings it down the street. A young mother sees it arching toward her baby carriage.
My baby!
The crowd is immediately electrified by the signs of the red-haired superhero. The supers have reunited. It's that Fee Ronic. No, Fee Ronic had a different outfit. Has a different outfit.
No, I'm a new superhero, Syndrome!
Syndrome Cressley flings the tanker truck behind him with a flourish. It explodes, frightening the crowd.
All right, stand back.
The Omega droid reaches a massive claw towards Syndrome, who passes a series of buttons on his power cuff. The robot freezes suddenly, idling. Syndrome smiles, pressing another series of buttons on his remote.
Someone needs to teach the hunk of metal a few manners.
Putting on a good show, Syndrome flies around the idling bot and delivers a punch to one of its leg sockets. Omega droid's POV, technical readouts spray across its view screen as it confirms Syndrome's instructions. Restrain battle mode. Detach arm at signal. Resume exterior Omega droid. On cue, one of the Omega droid's limbs suddenly falls out of its socket, thundering loosely to the ground. As Syndrome reveals in the cheers of the crowd, we push in on the Omega droid. It's watching Syndrome and thinking. Omega droid's POV. Technical readouts spray across its view screen as it analyzes control stolen by external signal. Locate source, external signal. Columns of numbers and crunch. The Omega droid's lens eye zooms in on the control hands around the Syndrome wrist. Signal source, remote control. And comes to a logical conclusion. Override external control, destroy remote control. Resume exterior Omega droid. The Omega droid fires a precise laser shot at blasting the remote right off the syndrome wrist. It clatters to the street and spirals down the horror as the bot goes after him. Omni Android touches syndrome, knocking him out cold. Robot then resumes its havoc. Frozone appears on the scene, high above the earth. Another rocket identical to the first one descends from the clouds again. It separates into quarters, which falls away, revealing the landing craft inside. And only do we notice what's the difference about it. In the center of the large, perfectly round hole designed to the whole Omni Android is a Winnebago, purposely held in a place by a very stressed Helen. Inside the van, Bob is at the wheel. V and Dash are seated at a small table in the back.
Are we there yet?
Get there when we get there.
Bob opens his window. Wind rushes in and scatters loose debris everywhere. Exterior van. Bob leans out the window, shouts to Helen up on the roof.
How you doing, honey?
Do I have to answer?
The giant wing is descending, gliding closer to the water as the city looms closer directly ahead. Interior van.
Kids, strap yourselves down like I told you.
The kids moving into the seats as the monitor panels belting themselves in. Bob opens his window, yells up to Helen.
Here we go, honey. Ready, Violet?
Violet holds on a hand over a giant jerry-rigged release switch.
Ready? Now.
V slams the switch. Exterior van. The explosion bolts fire, separating the wing. Helen lets go with a pained shout. Swings inside throughout the window. Interior van. Bob steps out the gas and the van wheels spin. Bob tenses as he watches the speedometer move past 110, 120, 130.
This is going to be rough.
Exterior city street moving with them. The van sails over an overpass, climbing on a light pole and crashes the pavement in a shower of sparks, flies down the street at 200 miles an hour, fighting to keep control. Bob hits the brakes, smokes and erupts from the wheel wells. One van moving with them.
What about the financial district? Which exit do I take?
Traction Avenue.
That'll take me downtown. I take 7th, don't I?
Bob cranks the wheel and cuts it across several lanes toward the 7th Street exit.
Don't take 7th!
Bob aborts the exit, swerving hard to avoid collision.
Great, we missed it.
You asked me how to get there, and I told you exit at Traction.
That'll take me downtown.
It's coming up. Get in the right lane. Signal.
You don't exit at Traction.
You're gonna miss it.
Ah!
Exterior freeway, moving with the van. The van takes a violent swerve across 6 lanes, barely making the off-ramp. Sparks spray as the van slams onto the metal railing. The van careens off the railing and into traffic, narrowly missing a semi. Horns bare. Interior van. Bob's teeth clench as he fights to slow the car down. He stomps both feet on the brakes. Exterior van. Its tires smoking. The van pummels sideways and loses it, tumbling down the center of the street, spraying metal pieces in its wake. It rolls into an open parking space and lands miraculously upright, stripped like an earring like corn. Interior van. Bob and Helen sit up woozily. Bob turns to the kids.
Everybody okay back there?
Violet and Dash pull themselves upright. They look as if they've emerged from an industrial tumble dryer.
Super duper, Dad.
Let's do that again.
The Omni Droid comes into view, rough, the cracked windshield. Bob releases his seatbelt, turns to Helen.
Wait here and stay hidden. I'm going in.
Exterior van. Bob greedily stares after the Omni Droid. Helen stretches an arm and grabs his shoulder, spinning him around.
Well, what? I watch helplessly from the sidelines? I don't think so.
I'm asking you to wait with the kids.
And I'm telling you, not a chance. You're my husband. I'm with you, for better or worse.
I have to do this alone.
What is this to you, playtime?
No.
So you can be Mr. Incredible again?
No.
Then what? What is it?
I'm not.
Not what?
Not strong enough.
Strong enough, and this will make you stronger?
Yes. No.
That's what this is? Some sort of workout?
I can't lose you again.
Helen is stunned. She stares at Bob, whose head is bowed like a child.
I can't. Not again. I'm not strong enough.
Helen searches Bob's eyes, deeply touched. She throws her arms around him, kissing him.
We work together. You won't have to be.
Bob looks in her eyes, equally tender.
I don't know what'll happen.
Hey, we're superheroes. What could happen?
Violet screams. She and Dash jump clear just as the van is crushed by the Omega droid. A metal foot. The Incredibles run, and another Omega droid foot smashes into the street, blocking the kids away. Bob and Helen stop whirling.
Dash, no!
The Omega droid is now fully focused on the kids, pounding Violet's force field is relentlessly with its giant claws. The shield holds. The bot draws itself up and drops. The entire of its massive bulk slams into the force field, knocking V unconscious. Her force field flickers out. Her force field flickers out.
Violet?
Again, the bot draws itself up to deliver the crushing blow. Dash cringes and the bot drops and hits an obstacle halfway down. Dash looks up.
Dad!
Bob is underneath the bot on his back, his arms and legs straining underneath the weight of it.
Go! Go!
V comes to and is instantly yanked out from under the machine into Helen's arms. Dash follows them around the corner. Straining, Bob lifts the bot enough to get to his feet underneath. The bot snatches Bob out from underneath and flings him at the building across the street. Interior building, 8th floor offices. The windows shatter as Bob's body tumbles across the floor, scattering desks and chairs. Exterior city streets. Ellen rounds a corner out of the Omnidroid's view and carefully seats Violet down. She looks at Dash and V.
Stay here, okay?
Helen turns away, charging back toward the robot. V and Dash watch their fearless mother in amazement. With Bob and the Omnidroid, and as the bot pulls itself up the building to look for Bob, Bob charges the bot, hitting it with enough force to dislodge it with the building. It falls crashing into the street with an earth-shattering bloom. Bob falls with it, but rolls and lands on his feet. The familiar sound of cracking ice causes Bob to look up.
Frozone! Yeah!
A narrow street of ice streak across the pavement and Frozone skates past, joining the fight. Following Frozone, he moves up the Omega droid, apparently icing its joints as it tries to get up. The machine whimps as its motors strain against the ice. Further down the street, Helen rushes up to Bob.
Bob!
Just then, Frozone sails into frame and crashes into the roof of a parked car. Bob turns angrily toward the robot.
Hey!
And is immediately smacked by the robot. Bob flies under the side of a building and tumbles onto the street. Frozone and Helen distract the robot, heckling it and spreading it out. It goes after them like an enraged beast. Dazed, Bob looks up and sees strange device on the ground in front of him. He examines it, his eyes widening when he realizes what it is. He holds it up, yelling excitedly to the others.
Centrum's remote!
Wham! The bot comes on Bob like a ton of bricks, lifting him above the ground. Miraculously, Bob is held on the remote and quickly stabs at the bot and hoping to get lucky. With a boom of the bot's limbs releases, sending it and Bob crashing to the ground. Around the corner, Violet sees this. She turns to Dash.
Remote controls the robot.
With Bob and the Omega droid knows this too and fires its blast at Bob to try to stop Bob from using the remote. Bob jumps clear, then hears his son from down the street.
Dad, throw it! Throw it!
Go long!
Bob gives the remote a monster throw, flying it high into the air and across the river. Dash pivots and takes off after it. The Omni sees Dash and starts firing after it. With Dash, as he hits the water, jetting across the water, a surface of the Omni fires away. The water explodes around Dash, but he concentrates on the remote, following it on his hands like an NFL receiver.
I got it!
Dash crosses the river, hits on the streets on the other side, seemingly home free, but the Omni is still firing and it hits some cars in Dash's path, igniting their gas tank, suddenly Dash is surrounded by a wall of flames. With Bob, he runs towards Ellen, who is closer to the Omnia droid.
Honey, take out its guns.
Helen hears him. She grabs the manhole cover, winding her elastic around him as a light pole to fling it, like an arrow, at the Omnia droid's gun. Bullseye. Across the river, with the flowing amounts to a game of hot potato between the supers and the robot over the remote. Frozone saves Dash from the circle of a burning car. The robot sees this, goes after him, with Dash on his back. Frozone races across the river and freezing it in front of him as he goes. The robot jumps, almost on top of them, creating a massive wave and throwing Dash and Frozone high into the air. Thinking fast, Frozone turns the wave into a wall of snow and crashes onto the street, causing their fall. Interior streets nearby. The remote clatters on the ground. Bob sees it and runs for it. The bot sees Bob and fires a claw. Catching Bob just as he was reaching for the remote, the claw, with Bob's inside, tumbles end over the street. With Bob out of the way, the bot heads over the remote. Frozone ices the robot's path, causing the bot's metal feet to slip and slide. Helen runs ahead of the bot, stretching herself into a tripwire across the stumbling robot's path. It crashes to the street. The bot looks up. The remote lies on the street, just in front of it. Easily within its grasp, the bot reaches out with a claw to destroy the remote. The remote magically jumps clear. The bot tries again and again, and the remote starts wildly. The stars wildly as the remote with all of its arms. We hear Violet shriek as the remote repeatedly excludes the robot's grasp, finally tangling its legs so badly that it topples over. V reappears, running back to rejoice the group in the middle of the street.
Mom, I got it. I got the remote.
A remote? A remote that controls what?
Violet begins to fiddle with the remote, click, click wheel, poking the buttons to no effect. The robot has gone to its feet and lunges toward them. Violet shrieks and presses the button at a last time. Rockets fire underneath the robot's clawed feet, lifting the enormous machine into the air.
A robot?
Everyone ducks as the robot rockets overhead, crashing into a building at the end of the street. Like a woozy prize fighter, the Omnia droid gets back on its feet.
It's coming back.
Dash snatches up the remote from Violet, aims it at the robot, spins the click wheel, and presses a button. Behind Dash and unseen by all, the claws on the robot, a detached spring open, flinging Bob into the air.
That one, right?
Give me that.
Down the street with Bob, he climbs to his feet and muttering to himself.
Can't stop it. The only thing hard enough to penetrate it is...
A thought hits him. He turns, staring at the metal claw.
Itself.
With Frozone, Ellen, and the kids, Helen has the remote now and is trying to figure out the Omnia droid, has them all in its sights and is lumbering toward them. The kids are staring at the panic.
No, this will work. This will work. Lucius, try to buy some time.
Find the one next to it.
Lucius takes off, throwing ice and skating down the street toward the approaching robot. He jumps off an ice ramp. He catches, converting it into a circular ski disc in midair. He lands, throwing a massive ice wall in front of it. With Bob, as he closes the claw with a massive arrowhead and starts charging the streets. With Helen and the kids, Helen dials and the click wheel on the remote pokes a button. Resume Bob. The back of the claw suddenly fires a rocket engine. Bob veers crazily, trying to control it. Resume Helen and the kids. She pokes the button again, now close to the group. Bob claws switches off. Bob gets an idea.
Wait a minute. Press that button again.
Helen presses the button. The claw blades start to spin.
No, the other one. The first one.
First button. Got it.
The Omnia droid has broken through the first ice wall and is pounding away on his second one. Though Frozone is giving all he's got, the robot's starting to get through.
Helen?
Helen looks at the remote, gestures at her kids.
Get out of here, kids. Find a safe spot.
We're not going anywhere.
Press the button.
Not yet!
The Omega droid is pounding through the second wall. Bob shouts from behind.
What are you waiting for?
A closer target. You got one shot.
The Omega droid shatters the last wall. It's almost on top of them. Helen passes the button. The claw pocket fires. Bob aims it directly at the Omega droid metal's underbelly.
Everybody duck!
And releases it. The giant metal arrow soars overhead and drills the clean through the robot's body, coming out of the other side. For a long moment, nothing happens. Then the other Gretorian machine keels over and explodes. It's over. The family looks at each other, stunned. Frozone starts to chuckle. Bob smiles as he looks at his super family. It feels like his best memories, only better. The seemingly empty city begins to come to life as people emerge from their hiding places. Covering in the street, people begin to spontaneously cheer, and the heroes welcoming the superheroes return. Two elderly gentlemen stand together in the crowd. One nudges the other.
That's the way you do it. That's old school.
Yeah, old school like the old school.
On a nearby rooftop, Syndrome comes to look over the edge of the streets below to find that the battle over the top battle over in the mess is cheering not for him, but for the group of supers. He darkens.
No.
With Frozone and the Incredibles, they drink in the cheers as they adore the crowd gathers around them.
Just like old times.
Just like old times.
Bob slaps Frozone on the back. A little too hard. Frozone shakes it off.
Yeah. We're thin, too.
Exterior city streets, moving dusk. A long black limo cruises down the street. Inside the black limo, continuous, Bob sits proudly with his family as Rick Dicker debriefs them. Everyone is enjoying the moment, save for the Helen who has already clicked back into mother mode and is using car phone to get messages.
We've frozen all his assets. If Syndrome even sneezes, we'll be there with a hanky and a pair of handcuffs. People of this country are indebted to you. We'll make it good on it.
Does this mean we can come out of hiding?
Let the politicians figure that one out. But I've been asked to assure you that we'll take care of everything else. You did good, Bob.
Dash plays with the electric windows as Helen retrieves messages from the car phone. Windows up, windows down.
Hello, Mrs. Parr. Everything's fine. There's something unusual about Jack. Can you call me? Okay.
Window up, down, up. Finally, Helen snaps.
Come on, we're in a limo.
Bob is looking apprehensively, appreciatively at Violet.
You're wearing your hair back.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Looks good.
Thanks, Dad.
That was so cool. You threw that car.
Not as cool as you running on water.
And Mom, hey Mom, that was so sweet. When you snagged that bad guy with your arm, it was kind of like whiplash with the other bad guy.
I'm trying to listen to messages, honey.
It's those guys that tried to kill us. That was the best family vacation ever. Oh, I love our family.
It's me again. Jack's still fine, but I'm really getting weirded out. When are you coming back?
Bob, listen to this.
Helen is listening to the last message as the limo slows to a stop in front of their home.
Here we are.
Hi, this is Kari. Sorry for freaking out, but your baby has special needs. Anyway, thanks for sending a replacement sitter.
Replacement? I didn't call for a replacement.
Bob's eyes widen. He and Helen jump from the car, followed by the kids. They cross the lawn and burst through the front door to reveal Syndrome, who spins, hitting the family with his 0-point ray, cradling his sleeping Jack in his arms. He grins. I said I didn't hear you say baby's sleeping. Sorry. He cackles. The Incredibles are frozen and helpless in the grasp of the 0 point. Only their eyes betray their desperation.
I'm simply returning the favor. Don't worry, I'll be a good mentor, supportive, encouraging, everything you weren't. And in time, who knows? Maybe I'll make a good sidekick.
Syndrome flings the family into the bookcase. He points his power band toward the roof, and he blows a huge hole in it, revealing his mana jet hovering high above. Syndrome fires his jet boots and takes off toward the jet.
He's getting away, Bob. We have to do something. We have to do something now.
Ascending with Syndrome, Jack does. Jack awakens to the sigh of his family and home. Reciting beneath him, he cries, reaching out of them. Syndrome nears Manta Jet. Jack's crying turns angry, and suddenly he bursts into flames. Syndrome shrieks. Jack's fire goes out, revealing that the baby has turned to metal. Syndrome drops with a sudden weight. His jet boots compensate, but Syndrome is struggling to stay aloft. The baby's flesh reverts to normal, but the baby begins to vibrate fiercely. Syndrome can barely keep hold of him. On the ground, Helen turns to Bob, panicked.
Something's happening. What's happening?
Resume Syndrome and Jack. The vibrating baby begins to redeem, transforming abruptly into Mini Monster. The Jack monster throws a headlock around the Syndrome, laughing melodically and stares to rip apart Syndrome's jet boots. On the ground, Bob and Helen watch helplessly.
We have to stop him. Throw something.
I can't. I might hit Jack.
Throw me.
With Syndrome and Jack rips a valve of Syndrome's jet boots, which propels him upwards, slamming his head into the jet's wing. He loosens hold of Jack, who falls. On the ground, Helen sees this, turns to Bob.
Bob, throw me.
Helen leaps into Bob's arms, forming into a sphere shape. Bob takes aim and flings towards the falling baby. In the sky, Helen soars and grabs Jack. She quickly blooms into a parachute. Interior-exterior Manta Jet. Syndrome regains control. He successfully docks with the hovering Manta Jet. He stands at the docking doors, his cape blowing dramatically upwards.
This isn't the end of it!
On the ground, Bob looks around wildly for a way to get Syndrome and spies his sports car. Regret flashes across his face. Exterior Manta Jet.
I will get your son up! Oh, no.
Syndrome's eyes wide. Bob's car is soaring toward him, tumbling end over end. The Manta Jet Syndrome jumps back as the crafts collide, blowing him off his feet and up over the wing toward the turbines. Clogging madly to find purchase, he looks over his shoulder, time to see his cap sucked into the intake. Syndrome screams as he yanked out of the frame. On the ground, Bob, Dash, and V react to Manta's jet explosion. Descending with Helen and Jack. Helen cradles Jack, facing upwards, his back toward the ground. He looks up at her, giggling and cooing.
Look at Mommy, honey. Don't look down. Mommy's got you. Everything's all right.
But Jack sees burning wreckage coming toward them and starts to shriek, pointing upwards. Helen turns to see it. Wreckage crashes on top of them, destroying the paper home. Helen and JJ are saved. V and Ellen exchange a meaningful look.
That's my girl.
Does this mean we have to move again?
Everyone chuckles at this. The smoke begins to clear, revealing a lone witness to this cataclysmic event. The big wheel kid, whose eyes are as big as dinner plates.
Oh, man. That was totally wicked!
Exterior Parker Stadium day 3 months later. The stadium parking lot is about half full of a beautiful cloudless day. The marquees announced junior high track finals. Inside the stadium, young runners loosen up at the starting line of the 100-yard dash. Dash is among them. He waves to the stands. In the stands, Bob and Helen and Jack wave back. Coming down the steps is none other than Violet's crush, Tony Rydinger. He waves coolly at some friends and heads towards the concession stand. Pausing when he sees Violet and a friend talking nearby, he approaches them.
Hey,
Hey.
You're Violet, right?
With a smile, V's friend exits.
That's me.
You look different.
I feel different. Is different okay?
Different is great. Would you,
Yeah?
do you want,
Yeah?
maybe we, could,
Violet silences Tony with a single finger on his lips. Tony stares at her in shock and wonder.
I like movies. I'll buy the popcorn. Okay?
yeah, good. Movie. Okay. Friday?
Friday.
On the field, the starter pistol fires, and the runners take off. Dash jogs well behind the pack in a confident, easy trot. In the stands, Bob and Helen Violet cheer Dash on.
Go, Dash, go!
Go, Dash, run!
Run!
Cheer Dash on.
Go, run!
Go.
Wait a minute. I know. Travis, are you there? Yeah, I'll go. Dash, his eyes still on his family, accelerates a little and quickly moves toward the front of the pack.
Whoa, okay, pull it back, pull it back. Slow down.
Slow down.
Dash, clearly confused now, furrows his brows as he again drops back. The family shouts louder.
Make it close.
But don't give
second.
up.
Go for a second.
Go for a second. A close second.
Understanding, Dash accelerates just enough to scare the leader, crossing the finish line inches behind him. In the stands, the Incredibles are ecstatic. They cheer and laugh and jostle each other as if Dash had won Olympic gold. Dash stands in the cluster of panting, red-faced boys, not even winded, and beams at his proud family.
That's my boy.
Stadium parking lot, minutes later, the family crosses the parking lot, Dash sitting atop of Bob's shoulders, clutching his second-place trophy. Everyone is happy and together.
You were great out there, honey. We're so proud of you.
I saw you in the stands. I didn't know what the heck you wanted me to do.
The ground begins to quake. The Incredibles stop as a low rumble grows louder. On the far side of the lot, cars begin to be thrown into the air, tossed about like toys. A gargantuan drill spirals out of the ground, throwing dirt and chunks of asphalt in all directions. People run screaming as the enormous metallic vehicle crests and crashes to the earth. A door opens on top and a hulking figure in dirty overalls emerges atop a rising platform. His ragged voice amplified to a loudspeaker, the Underminer speaks. Behold the Underminer! I am always beneath you, but nothing is beneath me. I hereby declare war on peace and happiness. All will tremble before me. Camera pans off Bob as he glances at his family. They've already donned their mask, ready as they'll ever be. Camera turns to Bob, revealing that he too has put on his mask. He turns toward their new nemesis and smiles, rips his shirt open to reveal the eye insignia on the chest of his supersuit underneath the logo of The Incredibles. The end.
Yay!
Woo!
All right, let's start Incredibles 2 right now.
Action.
Right this very second.
We have to wait at least 13 years.
Yeah, let's wait 14 years, then we'll do it. All right. If you watch this table read, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.